Breaking down the biggest stories in the world of horse racing. This is At the Races with Steve Byk on Sirius XM Radio. Sirius XM Sports presents At the Races with Steve Byk. Horse racing, handicapping, interviews. This is At the Races with Steve Byk.
A good Tuesday. Race Ants, Sirius 162 XM 207. Sports Zone 999 if you're listening to Sirius XM online and at our website, stevebeck.com. And got a remarkable amount of news, including one really sad note. I hate when we get these, these after the fact passings, and I understand it's coming from Japan, but the word circulated yesterday about Blind Luck, who it's probably some people listening that haven't even heard this. Unbelievable. Complications of foaling in April, and Blind Luck. I think for a lot of us, I guess you don't have to be of recent fan horse player vintage, but she's the kind of horse that made made people into, serious fans. And there's there's a lot. I saw a lot of Blind Luck, and I'm sure a lot of you did. Especially not that she was confined by any means to the West Coast, because she wasn't. And Jerry uh, put her on the plane a lot of times. She was a private purchase. She wasn't much really to look at. Right? She was on the smaller side, and I can remember being at Churchill leading up to the Oaks. She had a few marks on her from skin disease as a 2-year-old, and she. I don't want to say she was a ratty looking thing, but there really wasn't much. She sometimes you look at them and they're like, wow. She was not a wow. She was just tough as nails, and really, really fun to watch. Now, if Gary Young is listening, he doesn't have anything against Blind Luck, but of course, Blind Luck over Evening Jewel in a couple of different spots, but most notably in the Oaks, in just thrilling fashion, and champion. She I vote for her every year when she's eligible now. She's been trying to get in the Hall of Fame for a number of years. And, I don't know the numbers. I don't know how close she's gotten per se, but daughter of Pollard's Vision, and out of a Best of Luck mare, and was all racehorse. 12 wins in 22 starts. 7 seconds. So first or second 19 times, a couple of other seconds, and then in the Lady's Secret at the end of her career, the only time she was off the board, when Garrett Gomez wrapped up on her and kind of eased her to the wire. But other than that, unbelievable. The grade ones, the Vanity, second to Unrivaled Bell, of course, in the 2010. I can't even say the words Ladies Classic. It was so ridiculous. Distaff, the Alabama, the Delaware Oaks that year. Switch Beater, I forgot that. Switch Beater in the Hollywood Oaks. And you can't say that it was the synthetic, because, at that point, actually, the Hollywood track was sort of a mix of sand, and, there was silica and what was that? The Pro Ride, right? That was Pro Ride. And in a lot of ways, by the time they were ready to take out the synthetic tracks, the Hollywood surface had actually become, really quite good as a something to handicap off of. It was you didn't really think about it being synthetic the last couple of seasons at Hollywood. Anyway, the Kentucky Oaks win, the Las Virginis was a grade one. She beat Evening Jewel a zop in there too. She was third in the Santa Anita Oaks. I may have been there. I can't remember this. I don't remember this. Crisp beater, and all due respect, there were basically like 4 horses on the wire that day. But I don't remember being there. I'm gonna have to look that up. I can't remember. Interesting set of riders too that were most closely associated. She ran for Jim Hatchett had her first. That called her, and she won off by 13 lengths. But then the private purchase and Mark DiDomenico and partners acquired her, and Jerry Hollendorfer fashioned this, to me, Hall of Fame worthy career. Joelle rode her first time out west at Del Mar. Then Tyler Bays had her for 3 starts, a first, a second, and a third, in the debutante, the Oakleaf, and the juvenile fillies. She Be Wild and Beautician finished in front of her in the Breeders' Cup. She Be Wild, Catman, right? Catman. And Beautician, McPeak. But then she won the Hollywood Starlet to end the season with Rafi Bejarano, and Bejarano rode her 6 straight times. Then Joelle got back on her. Delaware Oaks and the Alabama. The Cotillion, second when Havre de Grace beat her. And then second in the Distaff with Joelle. And then Garrett Gomez rode her last 5 starts. Actually, Rafi stuck one in there, too, in the La Cañada. She was actually second in the... Always a Princess beat her a couple of times. There's a name you don't think of that much. The horses that beat her, Zazu, Havre de Grace, Always a Princess, Unrivaled Belle, Switch, Crisp, She Be Wild, Miss Sueno in that Darley Deb. So I really was saddened when I saw the I don't know if it was a TDN alert or whatever, but I saw flashed up that Blind Luck had died. And best to all that loved her, including me. I really enjoyed that. I will not forget. I will not forget seeing her for I must not have seen her as a 2-year-old, or at least up close. Because I just remember seeing her in the paddock at Churchill leading up to the Oaks and thinking, wow, this is this is Blind Luck. All right. Really tough. Since Japan is involved here in the conversation, I'll mention tomorrow morning, take note, early risers, especially if you're on the West Coast, you're going to have to really early rise. There's the stake tomorrow that is going to serve as a Breeders' Cup Classic prep for Ushba, Tesoro, and Dermasota-Gaki. I'm sure we'll discuss this after the race with Dick Powell tomorrow, depending on what transpires here. But 2/3 of the three-headed Godzilla that is coming over Forever Young training away. But this pair tomorrow, I think 7 a.m. This is the Nippon TV High at Funabashi outside of Tokyo. All right, so set your DVR or whatever. All right, and you'll be treated, and I'm sure this will be. I don't know if it will be as carefully monitored as City of Troy's workout. I'll let Dick talk about that too. That workout the other day was highly scrutinized, right? I think it was fine. I have no idea. You're either gonna be all in on him, or you're gonna be dead set against him. And it'll be discussed ad infinitum by the time we get to Del Mar. All right. Let me slip in I got to catch up on a few different results, and I don't want to get too far into the week without finishing the recapping from the weekend, because there were plenty of other, we obviously yesterday with D. Wayne and with Kenny catching the Derby and Cotillion recaps. Christophe Clement recapping. I think I got most of those stake wins in, right? That Christophe has fashioned over the last couple of months, plus Jack Sisterson and Kerry Bryant. But there's quite a few more. Yesterday, follow up on the visit with Anthony and at Finger Lakes. It was, it was kind of what we anticipated. Stone Smuggler, Honest Mischief, George Abro. This a New York Final Furlong Racing and Sunset Ridge Racing. Kaibar Koa, a little over even money, paid $410, and was pretty much, was kind of a merry chase. Stone Smuggler and Mischief Lady 1-2. Mischief Lady actually was third choice. And then when it came to the boys race, Bostonian at call it 4 to 5. Actually 75 cents on the dollar, paid $3.50. And this was 4 and full too. Soon to be King, second choice, chased him home, Wesley Ward, and the Bernardini Gelding RT Racing Stable, Smart Choice Stable, and Denley Park Limited. Your owners, Denley Park, bred this Bernardini out of a Forest Wildcat mare, Falconess. But Bostonian, Dylan Davis pressed into service, soon to be King second. And that horse that King's Leap, I mean, not that the triple paid anything, but that King's Leap ran well to be third. And, was kind of in the hunt all the way around, and couldn't get to the favorite and couldn't withstand the second choice, but 11-1. So those were the 2-year-old stakes in the Leon Reed Rotney. And honestly, Rotney paid $410, and that was the most generous $410 you're ever going to see. Pompous Prince went off at 3-2 somehow, that was I thought that was crazy. Rotney, I don't know, I should have been 1-2. So you got 410, nothing wrong with that. The homebred Run Happy 5-year-old, he's a horse, not a gelding, out of a Speightstown mare. William Butler bred and owns, and Mike Maker trained. So they looked like they had a nice, looked like they had a nice card. You had a crazy winner in the nightcap. For those that were trying to close out a multi, there was a $50 winner in the nightcap. Hector Garza sent out a Bob LaPenta bred 5-year-old. He is bona fide. One of the great lines. And oh, brother, where art thou? He's bona fide. He's got prospects. Just a now. Wait a minute. I am the damn Patis Familia. if you've not, it is If you have not seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, highly recommended. All right, there's your movie recommendation for the day. We're going to talk to Eric Hamelbeck in about 5 minutes or so, and got quite a bit to cover with Eric. You may have seen the SCOTUS headlines yesterday, and a lot of it basically a lot of administrative not wrangling, even just pure administrative I dotting and T crossing. Eric will explain it and where things stand, but the basic send up is this thing is this is absolutely being decided in the Supreme Court, period. And there seem to be enough smoke signals to indicate that this will be decided by June of 2025, by the end of the Supreme Court term. So we'll let Eric parse that out. We also are going to talk about the contamination issue that seemingly there's real movement on the HISA front after posturing initially, including Dr. Scalay's declaration that there's no such thing as environmental contamination, which was a kind of a silly posture to take. Can use the George Duarte situation, which also involves Bonnie Lucas. Bonnie Lucas's case is not resolved, curiously, because the basis for lifting the suspension on Duarte involves the hot walker that on consecutive days handled horses that had meth positives, Duarte and Bonnie Lucas. There's some other secondary issues that are kind of, I'm guessing, holding up resolution on Bonnie Lucas's case, which we probably won't handle today, but needs to be brought out at some point. So Eric's going to join us in just a little bit, and I think I want to bring up with him as well, the what transpired with the Parks turf and HISA's involvement there, and a couple of public perception, kind of a misinformation campaign that seems to be, out there, trying to effectively smear the horsemen. I don't know how else to put it. So we'll do all of that with Eric shortly. There was a story that caught my eye. It started with a tweet, and then I followed it to Blood Horse, that you may or may not have seen, which the future of televised racing in Ireland in jeopardy. Did you see this by chance? It's a very, it's kind of an eyebrow-raising story. The gambling regulation bill in the Irish, they don't have parliament. I don't think it's a parliament. It's a, not sure. Well, it says lower, the legislative body in Ireland. It's calling for a ban on gambling advertising between 5:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. And Racing TV and Sky Sports have said if they can't show advertising for the bookmakers, then they can't broadcast. It is a very strange scenario. I mean, and certainly, I mean, having been there in December last year, I mean, the Ireland's racing crazy. So this thing is, I was sort of rubbing my eyes reading it. So we'll have to find out more. We may have to call on some of our Irish correspondents, which there are actually a few. But that story was a little unsettling. Let me slip in a couple more results before we reach for Eric. And Los Al wrapped up the brief 2-week meet, and of course, I don't know how far anybody has gotten into looking at the fields for Saturday. Saturday everywhere. Churchill, Aqueduct, Santa Anita. But they did draw, they drew the California Crown card, and it's good. It's really good. And in fact, Jeff Franklin and I will do the Eddie D down the hill and the California Crown on Thursday as the races. You're going to get those. You might get them as soon as tonight. I would venture to guess. But the Eddie D is terrific down the hill, and Christophe Clement, did he mention that he entered Big Invasion in the Eddie D? If he did, I missed it. I can't hear everything, but yeah, Big Invasion, and he actually drew really well. He drew outside and managed to land Flavian Pratt, which won't hurt his prospects. Good field for the Eddie D, but the Crown itself, a quick rundown. Newgate for Baffert. Mandela has got Subsanador, who of course came to Monmouth, and next the Philip Island. You've got National Treasure after the misfire in the Whitney. He's going to try. He's ticketed for the Dirt Mile, but is going the mile and the eighth here. Katona for Doug O'Neill, third off the layoff, and Muth, who's been we've been kind of waiting for Muth to materialize, and had rumored for the 3-year-old assignments out of the Shared Belief, and so he got an extra week instead of going to Philadelphia. Senior Buscador, of course, stretching back out after the tune-up in the Pat O'Brien, where essentially, he's just getting his sea legs after the World Cup. And Sadler's got indispensable, the runner-up to Muth in the Shared Belief, kind of a developing late-season 3-year-old. So that's your California Crown, and beyond that, the City of Hope. We'll see if wonder if Jay's going up to present. I know he presented the trophy, I think, last year or the year before. Nice field for that. The John Henry came up very good as well. And I think you got the Unzip Me, right? The girls down the hill. Very nice card Saturday to inaugurate the California Crown concept. Closing out Los Al, that's what I was actually sort of alluding to. In the Dark Mirage show card. Here's a 3-year-old filly for Baffert. Came back from a little bit of a layoff and has now won back-to-back show card, won the Tranquility Lake, and then wins this Dark Mirage, which is kind of, seems okay, running 80 buyers. And let me slip in those 3 Remington stakes that we talked about with Dale Day, right? You had Do You Want to Dance as the 2-1 favorite, win the Bob Berry with Goncalves for Scott Young and Terry Westheimer. You had Tap the Dot win the Red Earth for Asmussen Equine and Martin Riley. This Amoro Tap 6-year-old gelding was actually third choice. Paid a nice $9. Did Tap the Dot. And in the Turf Sprint, Dark Afternoon, Austin Gustafson for Blackhawk. Jim Rogers, homebred, a Black Bear gelding. So that was that group. And at Gulfstream, too, let me slip in those, as I called them, the remnants of the, at one time, one of the great summer events in racing, the Summit of Speed. And they had to take the Bob Bumfrey off the turf. But they, you don't lose much on the Tapeta side. And Reef Runner for the Leblongs and David Fox. This is a Leblong homebred, a big beast. Manny Vasquez aboard, went off at 6-5. Wins the Bob Humphrey, and of course, so many racing office denizens who learned the trade either alongside or from the late Bob Humphrey. Gustavo Delgado had a nice-looking maiden winner, Sarcastic Joke. If you saw that was in between the stakes. And then later, the Aventura, Crazy Frazee for Delgado, George Delgado, as opposed to Gustavo. And Lee Farms. This is a 50 bred Blame Colt. Crazy Frazee won well. And there were like 3 horses that were basically co-favorites in here. Lightly raced 2-year-olds. And then in the Ginger Punch, I'll save the Princess Rooney for last. In the Ginger Punch, Fox sent out Royal Light Racing's first dude filly, Charlie's Wish. Second choice, paid $840. Also Manny Vasquez, and came from well back to win the Ginger Punch. And in the Princess Rooney, which is still a grade 3, at one time a grade 1, Soul of an Angel, Saffy Joseph for C2 and Agave, the Atreides mare, who's, I'll tell you, fashioned herself a pretty nice career. That's her 5th win in 40 starts. She made 13 starts last year, and she's made 9 so far this year. Soul of an Angel, and coming out of the personal ensign. So a very effective turn back. And I imagine, although she's not, I don't think she's being by Atreides. I don't know if she's Breeders' Cup. I don't know if she's Breeders' Cup. They may have to pay. Not that group would be unwilling to pay. We'll have to find out about that. All right. So that was some of the other weekend results, and I've got a little bit more that we'll get to as the morning unfolds. Right now, I think I've got Eric. Do I not?
I am a man of constant sorrow.
That a boy! Look at you! Look at you! Well done.
Yes. No. How are you, Steve? Everything's good here. Rainy
All right.
day in Lexington, but we certainly need it.
No, exactly. Pretty much everywhere. I think that's fair. I mean, when it comes to racing, we're like, oh, it's beautiful, it's beautiful, it's beautiful, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, the turf courses are dry as a bone. No good. Well, thought of you immediately yesterday as the reports emerged about of all justices. Yeah, Justice Aito getting involved in what is obviously going to be a case that the SCOTUS is going to have to decide, given the district, the differences in the various, the various circuits. Explain what transpired yesterday, Eric, and what it means in terms of timing and executions.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and try to explain it a bit. Gets a little weeded and the wording is awkward for most of us horsemen trying to speak the legalese, but hopefully I can, explain it a bit. I'm going to go back one step in that after the July decision, the opinion from the Fifth Court declaring unconstitutionality of HISA, there was recently I'll say, petition to stay or to stop the relief that would be granted to the plaintiffs, and that relief or that award, if you might say, would come from the lower court in the Fifth Circuit. So that's just how, again, you've said it several times the last few weeks, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So there was a request by the FTC and HISA to not allow that to go down to the lower court, not to give relief until the Supreme Court made a decision. That that request was denied very quickly, actually within 24 hours. So the next step, again, procedural, certainly anticipated and not a surprise, and would have done on both sides. They went to HISA and then subsequently the FTC. The attorneys then put in a petition or a request for the Supreme Court to offer up a stay, or again, to stop any relief to be granted from the Fifth Circuit's decision. And as you said, Justice Alito, he oversees the Fifth Circuit. And this is, again, something I've learned. Each of the circuits has a judge, and they are responsible for that district. So in the Fifth Circuit, seeing the petition, seeing the request, what he did was, as of yesterday, he said, okay, let's give an administrative stay on the relief until I can gather all the information. And then also he ordered our attorney group, along with those who have intervened, in our case, the state of Texas and then Gulf Coast Racing, you have to respond, or we have to respond as to why we don't think this is a good idea. We don't think a stay is necessary. That has to be turned in by next Monday, so the 30th. So again, you know, it's a lot of words on paper. You know, T.D. Thornton, I thought, did a good job trying to explain it. You know, again, I think that, you know, when you read these sorts of things, it's going to be shaped as however your opinion already is formed. But at the end of the day, this is a procedural scenario, which, while some people want to continue to say it's taking too long, this is exactly what we are fighting for: due process in the proper form, you know, within the litigation itself. And again, the enforcement of how rules are adjudicated is very important to horsemen. And that's why, again, we continue to say that, you know, the courts are going to decide this case, and it may take a while. We understand that, but that's due process. That's the legal way to do it in the United States, not throwing hammers down, not, you know, taking away occupational licenses without any proof or without any adjudication. You know, this is the way it goes, and we're willing to be patient and sit back and wait to see what happens. Now, granted, I think all sides at this point wanted it to get to the Supreme Court so we could have a final decision. You know, we parsed out the opinion from July. You know, again, I think paraphrasing Alan Foreman, he said it was the beginning of the end. You know, I don't see how that really equates to what the opinion read. You know, I see it as a pillar of the act written by Congress and passed by Congress as law. You know, when a big pillar of a bill is declared unconstitutional, it affects the entirety of the bill. So again, we know that this was going to get to the Supreme Court, and I think, you know, unlike everybody else, the sooner the better. Again, you know, you've given me the platform that many others have not, to constantly say win or lose in the courts is a win for the horsemen, in that we know it's constitutional or we know it isn't. We just want it to be the right thing for horsemen. We want it to be the right thing for the industry. And certainly, as you've allowed me to say many times over, the National HPPA has been pursuing uniform rules and regulations based on veterinary science for longer than I've been sitting in this seat. Go back all the way to 2012, when Dr. Tobin and Kent Sterling, you know, wrote the world rules for equine drug testing, therapeutic medication regulation, you know, literally in print for several years, trying to bring about uniformity, describing what is based around science, whether it be therapeutic or contamination. So yeah, we're going to keep fighting for it. Obviously, somebody who had their head in the sand, if they think that everything is uniform now. You know, the National HPPA is not about patchwork rules. I mean, I would go on the record and say that I believe the rules were much more uniform than we got credit for when the bill was passed. But at the end of the day, we are standing firm to try to bring about uniformity in a constitutional fashion. And that's why we've continued to try to float along with the Racehorse Health and Safety Act. It may not be the perfect bill, but at least it's probably, the closest thing that we've got to uniformity that is 100% constitutional, at least at this point, because again, the way our Constitution is based, you have to have state involvement in order to be constitutional. So we'll continue to roll along with that and see how the courts decide. And hopefully we're there to help bring about uniformity wherever the courts land on this issue.
Eric Hamelbeck with us in the wake of yesterday's latest. It's not even a development. It's just a procedural aftermath of the last several weeks. I want to expand. I want to expand on the rule uniformity topic, Eric, for a second, because the critics, who just seemingly can't discuss any of this, rationally and coolly. Everything has to be a smear and an indictment of what they screed as the horsemen wanting to to go back to to the way things were. That's a laughable posture, considering how much effort had been going into model rules and a lot of the advancement. Alan Foreman in particular, we had these discussions for years, the RMTC visits with Dr. Waterman originally, and there had been so much progress over a 10 to 15 year period, and no one is going to say that there haven't been benefits from HISA's presence. But explain, Eric, from your perspective and the horseman's perspective, why that's an unfair characterization that that having HISA and HIWU struck down as unconstitutional. Why why you want that, and what would be the next process to gain industry-wide cooperation for whatever would replace it.
Right. Well, the first thing I do want to say, and I know I've said this before, and just remember, in the years leading up to the point where we are, horsemen have never been in charge, right? We're not regulators. There's no one that has adapted more and been, amiable to change to new rules than the horsemen, because at the end of the day, we weren't the ones in charge. Now, unlike, everything that has developed, we were always very instrumental in the model rules process and had a voice at the table at the RMTC, and things didn't always go our way. Absolutely. And we understand that. But at least people heard what we've had to say. And I think, and this is going to jump way ahead and I'll jump back, I think some of that same thing is now happening under the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act. They've heard us. They may not have wanted to, but there are things that are changing. But with regard to, and I'm going to point to the RHSA again, the Racehorse Health and Safety Act. Again, we feel as if the first thing that needs to be done is to create a constitutional form for uniformity. And Alan is right that I've heard him say that's been tried before, but it never has been tried on a federal level. right? They've tried to do some things historically, and again, this is before I was in this seat, so before 2015, that they tried to do a state compact. And I think the Mid-Atlantic, which again, I always try to wave the flag, there are 6 HBPA affiliates in the Mid-Atlantic. It is not just a THA initiative. This is 2 horsemen's groups working together for the betterment of a region that has a significant crossover, and they were able to develop, a uniformity, or at least very close to 100% uniform. But when you have a federal compact, and we've looked at different models, it does require the state to pass a law signing themselves into the contract. And of course, everybody looks at that as, well, there's your opt-in, opt-out, and that doesn't create uniformity. And I'm not going to disagree with that statement, but you have to go one step further and say that does create constitutionality and legality. It's the way for the federal government to have a footprint, but not be in control. Having the adjudications done through the commissions, done through the states, having the governance of the laboratories all done through the commissions, I think would be the way to push forward in the future. But again, under the RHSA, we now develop what is called the RHSO, the Racehorse Health and Safety Organization, that mimics to some extent what the authority does now under HISA. Now, I don't usually describe it that way because I'm more familiar with the model rules process, and those folks who are out there who understand the model rules process, if you think of the RHSO, the Racehorse Health and Safety Organization, it is, in my mind, set up much like the ultimate model rules committee. So you have stakeholder, meetings, you have input, and once you have that grouping together in a discussion, you can make changes, make it, obviously make additions or removals of rules and regulations under the process, and it becomes uniform across the board. So again, that's the idea that I think we need to get to in a constitutional fashion. But the main thing is the 2 biggest problems with HISA, cost and adjudication, they go back to a constitutional fashion within the states, right? Because one of the things that's not even been adjudicated in courts that most people don't realize, that one of the biggest things about one of the problems under the Horse Racing Integrity Safety Act is that there is no federal money. And there are many people, including some major racetrack owners, who have said the biggest problem is the unconstitutional aspect of HISA not getting any federal funding. And I've said before, and I may have said here with you, Steve, if we had gone into this process early on and the federal government was pledging XYZ millions of dollars to help run this program, we might have a different conversation. But at the end of the day, I think you see where the funding has become a problem, how it's burdening folks, and also I don't see the sustainability of the Horse Racing Integrity Safety Authority under the budget they have, because I don't think that they are getting the monies that they are even budgeting. And so, what's going to happen when that does fall apart, if it falls apart because of lack of funding? Where are we now? So again, I feel as if, we need to get to this point of uniformity. That's how I think we can get there. I understand it was tried on the state level, but it's never been tried on the federal level, and that's what we're trying to do. And back to one last point, I saw a post on Twitter, and I've become less active on Twitter for a lot of reasons. But, someone said on Twitter, again, very uneducated, that, we are advocating for the failures that were at the UK laboratory. I mean, how could that even be conceived, right? First off, that the leadership at that laboratory wasn't around, pre-HISA. So, we are not advocating for problems. We are not advocating certainly for cheaters as those who continue to label that. I would point back and just ask the question, what cheaters have been caught. What in this current system and regime is any different, other than the problems with adjudication, than what we had under the ARCI model rules? What has been uncovered? What has been, adjudicated to the point of we have dismissed cheaters? What we've done is, and this could be a good lead to the next topic, what we've done is uncover the problems with zero tolerance and the lack of respect for contamination that's in the environment.
Well, and I was going to, as it happens, I was going to ask you a little bit about your impressions of what went on with the Kentucky lab. Go on with the contamination issue a little bit, Eric, because it's come up repeatedly, and Alan's been invaluable, with each of the, particularly with the human, the drugs of abuse, and also, and actually also the metformin topic as well. But when it comes to, particularly with these meth positives, and the Bonnie Lucas / George Duarte situation on back-to-back days with the same hot walker. If anybody that was dubious about transfer of trace amounts, you would think that this might convince them that gosh, maybe there's something to that. And Duarte's suspension was lifted, and I know how relieved he is after trying to fight it. Bonnie Lucas case is still out there to be resolved, and apparently Haiwu she's run afoul of another aspect of Haiwu construct, because they sent out sample. They tested the horse on their own, and that apparently offended the sensibilities of Haiwu. You're not supposed to test on your own horse, which is quite something, without their permission.
Without their permission, yeah, that is literally a regulation, and I've seen that come up on multiple occasions now. That a test that was not authorized to help mitigate the circumstance, you can't use it because they didn't authorize it. Now, you tell me what a double standard that is when, again, we're in a system now where you are guilty until you yourself prove yourself innocent. Again, unconstitutional, but that's the way the law is written. But yet you can't offer up by any means necessary mitigating circumstances unless it's approved by the people who are adjudicating. I mean, just listen to how that sounds, right? We've caught you wrong and give you permission as to what you can do or not do to prove your innocence. Now, you can hang all the signs you want to, and I'm in that boat now. I'm passing out flyers. We're trying to hang signs, don't urinate in stalls, wear exam gloves. It's things that aren't even necessarily protocols for Haiwu technicians as far as wearing gloves. And, nobody is asking the Haiwu technicians to, in the laboratories that I'm aware of, to write down what medications you're on before you go to work, but yet they're asking trainers as employers to get all their employees on whoever's on medication, write them down and put them on a piece of paper. And that may help you in a mitigating circumstance. Well, then I, by God, want to see all the technicians at Haiwu. I want to see their information. Where is it? Maybe I'm wrong and it does exist, and I'm happy if it does. But, that gets a bit infuriating. But, the drumbeat of, contamination does not exist. And you mentioned it earlier, Dr. Mary Scalay, and she's gone to great efforts to say that, all knowing that in 2010, when she was the equine medical director of the state of Kentucky, she literally had a morphine positive that she herself dismissed with a concentration that was associated with environmental contamination. Morphine. So, that's out there. That's real. And, we understand that contamination is out there. And I truly believe that, there are, through advances in science, there are high school football kids that may test positive for something that's wrong because of the way contamination is. And all we're asking, and I would say, because, our push, which really initiated strongly after the Rusty Arnold positive, but it's been a drumbeat for years, our push to the FTC for a rulemaking request, again, trying to go about things the right way, it's based on the fact that we understand things are in the environment, and all we're asking is for a level floor, not a ceiling, a level floor for levels. If the level at the floor is 500 picograms or 1 nanogram, many of these substances have science behind what could be a legal screening limit. Now, I think Ron Moquette has said, which I believe to be true, there's been fluctuation in the threshold, or better suited to say, screening limit for methamphetamine, even under the regime of HISA. I don't think that it's fair that they have not gone retroactively in their adjudication process, but I can't do anything about that. That's what they're doing. Similar with metformin. But there needs to be a floor that everyone can abide by, and that we understand based on science it doesn't have an effect on the horse. So our push for no effect thresholds is going to continue. It was continuing underneath the ARCI, and it all kind of got pushed out the window based on the HIWU mainly being a presence of a drug is and can be a violation. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have certain thresholds for obviously therapeutic medications. Obviously they do. But when you look at the fact that we have water systems that are testing metformin especially in Midwest racetracks, it's in the water system in picogram levels, it's going to happen. We get a lot of pushback saying, oh, well, you would have more positives if it was truly in the water. Well, we're not testing every horse. You want to spend the money to start testing every horse in every barn, then I think we'll find more. Not that we want to, but that to me is not an argument that we would find more if it was truly an environmental contamination, because we are not following something that is based outside the realm of science. And in fact, in this instance, with irrelevant concentrations, which is the proper way to say it in the science, we say no effect thresholds, but irrelevant concentrations are widely used in the human world. We've used this argument for years. Certain concentrations of methamphetamine can be found in a commercial pilot, and they still fly a plane legally. Those stories in the 80s when cocaine was everywhere, and you could test positive from touching dollar bills. It's out there. And now that science is advanced to the point that it is, and it's only going to continue to advance, we just need to be able to understand and respect irrelevant concentration, call it the noise that it is. It doesn't affect the performance, and let's move on. And part of that, Steve, and maybe the biggest part for me, is that it doesn't get publicized, right? We had a conversation with one of the FTC commissioners about a month ago, and explained to him that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, does not recognize anything in human drinking water at a picogram level. You know, we were going through positives at a Midwest racetrack of Sotanol, medication that helps in heart arrhythmia in humans. And we found Sotanol very prevalent in the water source. And here we find the EPA, you know, again, for human consumption, doesn't recognize it in a picogram level. So you don't say anything. And that's part of the problem. The Pimentals, you know, a lot of these folks, certainly Jorge Duarte, you know, I mean, when you have these levels that are insignificant and you publicize them, again, you look at what happens in the court of public opinion, you're guilty anyway. I mean, you're guilty anyway. People have lost horses because of the problems, even though they may have been retracted. And that's not fair to the industry, and it's certainly not fair to the trainer.
No, and you know, considering that a lot of the Hay Oats and Water Alliance people, you know, considering that they were, you know, clamoring on a going basis to be like the rest of the world. Well, the rest of the world utilizes those common sense screening levels.
Correct. You know, I always look at, you and I have we've certainly beat this drum. You know, you look at Lasix, right? The one thing that probably initiated all of this odd infatuation to remove Lasix from horse racing. You know, furosemide has a screening limit in Europe, right? You can have furosemide in the horse's system because, again, I know from years at Adina with horses in training with Jim Bollinger, I always laughed and said he uses more Lasix than Chad Brown. You know, and again, because we use it on race day, but they have a screening limit for it. So if it's below that screening limit in plasma or urine, nothing gets said. You know, to me, that's the goal, because, you know, I'm not necessarily advocating for, you know, that, well, let's say it this way. The rebuttable presumption, you know, offering up mitigating circumstances is important. But if there's nothing to offer up because the concentration was irrelevant, then no one needs to know. I mean, again, if it doesn't have an effect, and I think that there were laboratories pre-Issa Haiwu that understood that. There are laboratory directors that understand what is the noise, and it's such a micro level that it doesn't need to be brought to the attention of the racing commission. You know, I kind of look still at metformin. You know, you talked about the international world. You know, there seems to be a lot of weight on what WADA does, the World Anti-Doping Association, which again is not equine related. They don't even acknowledge metformin. And here we are, we're ruining people's lives over metformin, micro levels of metformin. Now, again, I've learned from Dr. Tobin. I'm certainly not a veterinarian. I'm not a pharmacologist. You know, the abundance of amount that you have to take for metformin if you're a human, and it's excreted in the same amount in order to have an effect for an equine, for a performance athlete equine, let's just say 1,000 pounds, is tremendous. So why are we, you know, adjudicating at the picogram level of metformin when in some instances we certainly have mitigating circumstances, whether the trainer / groom / whomever, you know, and I do continue to hear that there's proof that it's being used. And I don't have any proof, honestly, one way or the other. Obviously, it's in the horse's system, but at micro levels, there's no physiological way that is having an effect on the horse. And certainly most human doctors that I talk to, obviously that I know, don't feel as if metformin would even have an effect on the horse. Certainly not a performance enhancing effect. But again, we circle back to the same focus, and that's really trying to understand irrelevant concentrations, whether it's HISA going forward and HIWU going forward, or we get back to the model rules process. I probably am not going to jump off this train because I want to make sure, this is the one thing we need to really focus on, because I think it certainly helps the industry, doesn't give us those black eyes that you and I have talked about for years now.
Yeah, 100%. Because a certain percentage of observers, any called positive, whether it's something that is a legitimate therapeutic med overage, or whether it's something that doesn't belong on a horse, they're just conflated immediately.
Yes, sir.
It's been so unnecessary. I mean, for years this has gone on. I mean, it's not it's not a new development by any means. I've got one other arena too that occurs to me that in terms of kind of venturing into areas that HISA wasn't necessarily wasn't created necessarily with things like the turf course at Parks in mind, but they took an active role, and then you have the complete disaster that occurred on Saturday. Just curious. I mean, is that an area that that any authority, whatever form or shape it takes, isn't that a jurisdictional or a racing venue / jurisdictional
problem
topic?
Well, first, let me obviously be clear that Parks is a THA racetrack, but also I think me well enough, Steve. We can't fix all the problems. That's why I have a big problem with the comparison of fatality rates from one year to the other. This world operates on a bell curve, and as a longtime farm manager, going 3 years without a dystocia and then having 5 in 1 year, it's dangerous to compare or to use a negative to compare for a positive. But in this instance, when you look at the jurisdictional operation, the control, or even authority, I personally don't think that HISA would have the authority to shut down the races. I don't believe that. Now, whatever magic they could pull to all of a sudden flip a switch and turn off export signals, maybe they have that right, but I don't think they logistically have that option. But what they are in this instance, in the safety regulations, which is again one of the aspects of HISA that we were happy to see put in there, because we proclaimed coming out of the Santa Anita tragedies that someone needed to help guide all racetracks with provisions and guidance and certainly measurements that could help. So, I'm not going to condemn anybody that said, the track is fine, but, what I see is that the horsemen and the racetrack management group should get together. And from what I understand, at least I understand that the president of the Pennsylvania THA was advocating not to race on the racetrack. But again, I'm not intimately involved with the situation, but I think that's a horseman and racetrack management decision. Then they need to understand that the optics that we're in now, I certainly applauded the report that Dr. Palmer put out I mean, here's a report that, reading between the lines, this was saying, hey, we've got to do better at managing the racetrack. It's not the horseman. It's not doping. It's not running the horse too many times or running the horse too early. Sometimes there are problems with the racetrack. And I think in this instance, the authority and HISA, they had the opportunity to give recommendations, but, if they quote unquote approved, I mean, again, I go back to what Dr. McElroy said a few months ago. You don't know. I mean, you can't, I think it's dangerous to stamp approval and say, oh, this racetrack's fine, nothing's going to happen. You don't know that. You don't know that. And so from a physical standpoint, and again, I'm not there, I wasn't there, I haven't even been there, but just seeing some of the pictures, I would have concerns and want somebody with boots on the ground to make a decision. But I think it should have been a decision that's a culmination between the horseman's representative and racetrack management. And then ultimately, if racetrack management pushes horsemen to do something they don't want to do, then it comes back to horsemen's responsibility and the safety and what's in the best interest of equine health and welfare, as well as the jockeys. So, I think I applaud them for taking it off. I don't know, again, not being there, whether it should have ever run on there. I can speculate that the problems they were having seemed to lean towards maybe they shouldn't have tried. But at the end of the day, I don't want to blame HISA and any sort of recommendation, but I also would caution anyone at HISA for stamping approval of anything because, again, you and I have talked about it for years, Steve. Those sorts of things are going to happen no matter what safety initiatives we put in place. But by God, we certainly don't want to open it up to a situation where we know something is not safe.
Yeah, and they also took an active role last year with Churchill and with Saratoga, and there's certainly a hand in glove element when it comes to the equine safety side and surface,
Sure.
obviously. So,
Sure.
there is a role. I mean, but I thought this situation, kind of demonstrated the pitfalls and the practical dangers of essentially pretending that there's a panacea to all of these industry issues.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that there isn't an answer for everything. And again, especially when you're looking at racetrack surfaces, I've always tried to explain to people they're very much like a plant, very much environmental caused, or I should say affected. That you can't place one set of rules on every racetrack, sometimes not even on the same racetrack in different seasons. So you can't just look to one entity and say, oh yeah, well they said it was fine, so we're good to go. I mean, it just should not work like that for anybody. But I do think, and again, I'm speaking pre-HISA and HIWU, you look at the efforts of the track superintendents, you look at the efforts from UK and Dr. McPherson and, some of the things that have spawned from his work. We already had a lot of that in place, and right down to safety rails. Things were moving in the right direction from that standpoint, obviously. But again, being private property, it's hard to tell somebody what to do and have a forcible stick to make them do that. And I'm referring to, you pick a topic, hello, racetrack A, you've got to do this, and then prove to them how you're going to force them to do it. that's a difficult ask. That's where I think it comes back to horsemen have to be involved in those decisions.
Well, and that's been an area in general where you've tried to wave that flag that horsemanship is going to be the deciding factor as opposed to regulatory horsemanship by regulation.
Yeah. We cannot regulate horsemanship. At the end of the day, if we get to the point where we're over regulating, that horsemanship diminishes, which I think there are some instances that's occurring, then we're in trouble. I firmly believe that. And again, growing up and being a horseman at heart from the standpoint of that's all I've ever done. A lot of people just see me sitting in this seat. I don't think they realize what I've done for a living all these years. I take what's in the best interest of the horse, and I was lucky to work for a guy like Frank Stronach who allowed us to do that. I put a lot of merit on horsemanship, and it's one of the reasons, Steve, and I think you'll agree with me, why I'm so frustrated that we weren't involved in the process. And I don't mean Eric, right? I mean we, as in having boots on the ground people. Like the Horsemen's Advisory Group should have never been an afterthought. That should have been on the forefront before regulations were ever even submitted to the FTC. And again, I'm going to keep coming back to those points that, that's the kind of thing that should have been done. Again, I know Miss Lazarus was thrown in at the last minute, but the ramifications of the negatives, and I'm not saying they're all negative, but the negative effects that we've had under Hiss and Highwoo, many of them could have been thwarted if we had that input on the front end. I got a nasty text the other day, Steve, you'll love this, and it was one of the most backhanded comments that I should say backhanded compliments that I've gotten, just basically reaming me up one side and down the other and how I'm ruining everything in horse racing. But then the text ended with, if you'd have been sitting at the table, Hissa wouldn't have all these problems to begin with. And so I started laughing and I said, well, should I respond thank you or F you? I'm not sure. So
that is funny.
Yeah. But, again, I just want people to appreciate horsemen and understand that we've been nothing but compliant to the rules and regulations. And I know this is a drumbeat that Ron Moquette, who is a true boots on the ground guy, a wonderful trainer, wonderful horseman, he's got statistics of how we're losing trainers, and, horsemanship cannot be taken out of the game through regulations. It just isn't going to be good for the horse.
Eric Hamelbeck, National HBPA. And Eric, thank you for the review of where things stand on the SCOTUS side. And we hadn't had an in-depth conversation in a while. So perfect.
Thank you, Steve.
Perfect juncture. Thank you.
Talk to you soon, brother.
There it is, Eric Hamelbeck, everybody, National HBPA, and kind of incorporating, I don't know, half a dozen of the topics that intersect. And, actually, I should have brought it up with Eric still on the line, but as a farm manager, I saw where I think, let me confirm this because I don't want to congratulate him with if I've got it wrong. No, I got it right. Ned Toffee at Spendthrift named the Farm Manager of the Year, which is a really kind of a under the radar kind of an inside baseball award, the Kentucky Thoroughbred Farm Managers Club. The Ted Bates Farm Manager of the Year. Congratulations to Ned. We're going to spin right from our visit with Eric into a visit with Jose D'Angelo. You heard him the day before, or maybe 2 days before, Howard Wolowitz won the Franklin Simpson, and because I have a system in place, Jose, whereby whenever Al Gold wins a grade 1, he gets to come on the show. So we spoke to Al first last week.
Hello, Steve, you hear me?
I got you. I was explaining that I had Al Gold last week because he had won 2 grade 1s, and he always comes on after he wins a grade 1. So that's why I didn't call you, but I'm glad that I didn't, because on Saturday you brought back Ben Tornato in the Gallant Bob, and Jose, terrific performance, and it feels like he's a horse now that you've decided he's going to sprint. It feels like he's a horse that's going to impact the sprint division. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, because he left us by ourselves in Kentucky Downs. So what we did the job, thank God. So I'm so happy. It was a good month. I have big hopes in Howard winning the Kentucky Downs, the Franklin Simpson, Ben Tornado. I was very confident on him, sprint him. I know since he lost the third leg of the Florida Stallion Series, that he cannot go long. He was very well prepped to run this race, and he lost. He's big horse, strong, huge, but he moves too quickly. So that made me think. I spoke with Angel, his owner, before the race, before the third leg of the Florida Stallion Series, that I don't think that he can go long. When we went to Saudi, I was pretty sure. I said to him, "Hey, listen to me. You're gonna see your horse in front probably until the half of this stretch. This long stretch, I think this 1 furlong more is an extra for him. I think his perfect distance can be in between 6 and 7 furlongs. That's why I'm very confident on him for Saturday. He ran a huge race on Charlestown, and he came back pretty good on the Gallant Bob.
I mentioned when we were handicapping on Friday, Jose, the fact that the Hilton, that he was coming out of Charlestown, that's a 2-turn, 7 furlongs, and it's kind of funny. The Saudi Derby mile is 1 turn, that configuration, and it's obvious that that's what that really suits him. You're winning stakes with IRAD, which doesn't hurt. And of course, Ned Allard's horse, Sunny Breeze, ran absolutely huge. They were almost inseparable at the wire. What was central to this, and what motivated me to call, a 103 buyer, 101, and that breaking into the triple-digit buyer level kind of indicates that he's moving in the right direction here at the end of the 3-year-old season. He's a valiant minister that Tanma had bred, but he commanded a nice price. He was $170,000 last year at OBS.
Yes, like the funny story, like my owner bought him to Pink Hood, and they sell the horse, but he don't pass some test, and they back the horse to him. That's why I have his name Ben Tornado. Like he's welcome back on Italian. So he's nice horse, and I'm pretty sure that he's gonna be at the top level at the, like you said, on the division of sprinter here in USA.
Jose, tell me about Leon King stable.
Yes, they are from Venezuela. They started here with, they start with the claiming horses, and later buying better horses, hook a little bit. But like the goal of everybody here is try to go to the Derby or the big races, because sometimes you buy a horse to run the Derby and the horse is last, but the most important is have good horses, and they are enjoying now having Ben Tornado and some nice horses at the table. So that's the idea of they are doing right now.
Talking about Ben Tornato, who won the Gallant Bob on Saturday. Jose D'Angelo with us. We talked to Jose at Kentucky Downs before the Franklin Simpson, and let's before we talk about Howard Wolowitz, and I also want to bring up you had that horse run a nice race at Presque Isle too on Friday night. Well, KC Chief. We'll talk about that in a second. What's the plan for Ben Tornato? Do you get a chance with him? He is Breeders' Cup nominated. What are the thoughts?
Yes, we ran his race on Friday. He looked just by next Presque Isle, and we drive from Presque Isle to Paris race this night. So Ben Tornado, our plan now is to go to the Breeders' Cup. I'm pretty sure that he can improve a little bit more. If you see his workout chart, you can see like I worked from him for Charleston race. For this race, just easy workout because I know like probably the Gallant Bob is just one step to the main goal. And I always think like when you train horses, the most hard, the hardest part of training horses is like keep a horse at the top of his level for 1 year or for some time. So that's why like I train him little easy to can push to can train properly him for the Breeders' Cup. So I am very confident on him like he can improve more.
Well, I've been saying all summer and into the fall that the sprint division has been kind of growing and getting more and more interesting. And here's a very good 3-year-old, and I'll have to check with Ned Allard and see what he's going to do with Sonny Breeze as well. He's not nominated; he's a Cajun Breeze, but the two of them were terrific in the Gallant Bob on Saturday. Let's go back 2 weeks and get your view of Howard Wolowitz, because this was a terrific performance, and Irad rode him, Jose, like he knew he was the winner the whole trip.
Yes, and that I really like the horse for the race before because we have the interview like you say over there. So I transmit to Irad, very, very, confident on the horse. Like I really like the horse for this race. He trained very well. His workout was beautiful at Saratoga before leave to Kentucky Downs. This is the kind of horse that to me, I know it's not easy, but to me, he's gonna like the up and downs, the hills at Kentucky Downs because that make like more grounds. I know we are going to a Breeders' Cup and it's 5 furlongs, but to me, he's much better in a little more grounds, like 5.5, 6, gonna help him because he's the kind of horse like he's not fast from the gate. He just develops his speed, okay? You have to let him make his own move, and when you are seeing, he gonna kick back. And if you watch the race, what like Irad says, Irad did. He let the horse run by himself, 3, 4, and when he asked the horse to get the another gear, that he did when he worked, and I tried to repeat on the race and worked it.
Well, wins clear, wins easy, and as you mentioned, the distance limitation a little bit at Del Mar, and not going to be easy to tackle Cogburn, but Howard Wolowitz and Al Gold with a terrific win. Let me get some impressions about Friday night. KC Chief, basically, along with Mike Trombetta, Forever Super, it was the two of them. The good race.
Yes, it was a good race. I'm very proud of him. He improved so much. From a starter to a stake, he big difference on the field, and the horse was on the level.
What do we know about? Tell us a little bit. This is a 5-year-old, and really haven't noticed him before. I mean, you've only had him for 3 starts, but he had won the 2 since he came your way.
Yes, like I get the horse in very good shape, and I start training him. I really like him, but I noticed like he's like we have him something special in front because he started to getting better. And when he won first time out for me, you know what? I like to see the numbers. I think like we are in a horse sport like the numbers probably don't tell too much because they are animals. One day can be one thing and another day can change completely. But I like the numbers. And if you watch this race, he was faster at the second fraction. And usually when a horse do that, he that goes on an other track, it's hard to keep the lead and win the race. When you make fast fraction, when you do faster at the second fraction, sometimes you get tired. So he won, and he get another year getting on the last furlong. So he ran next race against Clyde W, like he was almost undefeated here in Florida on the Tapira, and he beat the horse. So he went to the digital sales. David Berenson and Leon Kim bought him. I said, hey, probably with this horse we can do better because he surprised me on the allowance. And when a horse do that, I think if I train, I change a little things to train a little harder to go to the stakes, he can be there. That everything worked perfect. That's sad that we don't win, but he proved that he belongs to the stakes.
Well, he had won, and he had won 2 straight for Julie Stormfeld, and
Yes.
Then he went through the digital sale in August, right? And he went through the Fasig-Tipton digital sale, $75,000 for a ready-made horse.
Yes. And he have the starters open, so he have a lot of races coming up. Just we have to do the right decisions, and he gonna be on the top.
Very nice. Well, I mean, he had won 4 straight coming in, 2 for you, 2 for Julie, and KC Chief, 5-year-old Noble Bird gelding, and he certainly has paid for himself out of the $75,000. This is why the digital sale format has become so popular, because you can put yourself in the game it literally in 3 days.
Yes, and you don't have to move the horse. It's less stress for the horse.
Exactly. Really nice.
Yes.
Well, there's it's been a good fall, Jose, obviously, and continued success. I wanted to find out more about Ben Tornato out of the Gallant Bob, and we were there for Howard Wolowitz as well, and things are going good for this last third of the year. It's already your best year as a trainer.
Yes, Steve. I'm very happy about that. We are getting better horses and showing up our skills like a team, like trainer here. At the end of the day, you need the support of the owners, horses, your teammates. Because it's not easy to move the horses for all the country and keep winning. So I'm very grateful with the life and God, and I would like to say thank you to everybody for the help, because without them it's not possible to do that. And now this year we are going to 3 years Cup, and it can be for sure it's my best year, and hopefully better things coming.
Jose D'Angelo, everybody, and Ben Tornato, your Gallant Bob winner, and arcing toward the Breeders' Cup, as certainly good 3-year-olds have impacted the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and Howard Wolowitz as well. Jose, continued success. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Steve. Bye. Thank you again.
Not at all. Jose D'Angelo, everybody, and this feels like a pretty good timing. Interesting. What an interesting campaign. And he got, even though he got beat in the Hilton at Charlestown, 99 buyer, which had been a career best. And there was certainly no disgrace finishing third. He was beaten 6 lengths in Saudi, but there's no disgrace getting, beat that distance by Forever Young and Bookham Dano, right? And you might say, well, somebody had to be third. Okay, yeah, that's true. Beaten 6. But, here he is. He's made 8 starts. He's never been worse than third. He was third in that, the In Reality. At the beginning there, Jose was talking about the Florida Stallion, the Florida Sire Series. And he had won the Fager and the Affirmed, but those were 6 and 7 furlongs. And then he had to go the mile and the 16th. And he actually didn't get the lead either. He never saw the lead. And it feels like he's really maturing into a serious horse. And again, I'll tell you, Ned Allard's horse, Sunny Breeze, ran just huge. Too good to lose, as they say. And 18-1. Hour and a half in, 90 minutes. Horse Health Today. Yeah. I had actually reached out to Dr. Allday about a dog issue. I wanted some free veterinary advice for a friend's dog. But no sooner did I do that, and I said to him, it's been very quiet on the horse health front. No sooner did I say that than bone bruising came up yesterday, right, with Christophe. And we haven't talked about that. Was it with Christophe or was it with Wayne Lucas? I can't remember now. But I thought, you know what? We haven't talked about that probably since Smarty or Fleet Alex, I think, had some bone bruising. Right? Anyway. That's our topic. Horse Health Today, brought to you by Lubricant and Reborn. Andy Serling at the top of the hour. Second half at the races. Sirius XM.
On Sirius XM Radio.
More winning is ready for you in September at Remington Park. Racing begins at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. Make your plans now for Oklahoma Derby Day. Sunday, September 29th features the Oklahoma Derby, the Hat and Tie Style Contest for big cash prizes, and the Derby Day Wine Tasting Festival. Oklahoma Derby Day begins at 3 p.m. on September 29th. Visit RemingtonPark.com for group rates, suite rentals, and more. Get more winning excitement in the Remington Park Casino, where the jackpot action never ends. Parking and admission are free at Remington Park.
Racing 2-year-olds in California and Kentucky. Please consider Bleeder Shield, the leading all-natural paste used to greatly reduce or eliminate EIPH. The list of trainers who trust Bleeder Shield is endless. Shouldn't you join the team? To learn more, contact Joseph Volante at 215-501-6880.
Who you betting on? How about an app created specifically for horse racing? Naira Bets. We specialize in thundering hooves, fist pumping, and boosting your bankroll with robust weekly promotions, and offer betting tips from actual horse racing experts. Bet all day and night, nationwide. Get the action and thrill of horse racing with Naira Bets. $200 deposit match with promo Steve200. Visit NairaBets.com for details.
Want to know a secret? The Massachusetts breeding program pays huge bonuses for finishing first, second, or third at any racetrack in the country. You didn't know that, did you? Mass breds get paid up to an additional 25% of their purse earnings for the owner, and breeder, and stallion owner, and developer. It's the best kept secret in racing, till now. Tell all your friends, and to learn more, visit massbreds.com.
Whether you're new to the racing game or just looking to enhance your operation, Hermitage Farm and Goshen can help you. We are conveniently located between Churchill Downs and Keeneland Racecourse and near world-renowned equine hospitals. With spacious paddocks, expert staff, and qualified veterinarians, we offer full-service boarding, breeding, and sales preparation, as well as post-operative care and layup services. Visit us in person or online at hermitagefarm.com.
Just minutes from downtown Saratoga Springs, you'll find GMP Farm, a revolutionary state-of-the-art equine therapy and rehabilitation facility offering the most advanced equipment and knowledgeable staff to care for your equine athlete. From oxygen therapy and laser treatments to thermal imaging, dry salt room, and cryotherapy treatment, all alongside a 7/8 mile tapeted training track. GMP Farm is revolutionizing equine care. To see a full list of services and book your horse's rejuvenation session, visit gmpfarm.net today.
Fans, our live meet here at Santa Anita Park will return on Friday, September 27th. And the first ever California Crown Day at Santa Anita will be held on Saturday, September 28th. It is a day that will include the $1 million California Crown Stakes, along with 2 Grade 2 stakes worth $750,000. It will also include premium options along with world-class experiences and cutting-edge technology. Griffin, Little Yachty, and Shabuzi are just some of the live acts that will be performing. You can get tickets at CaliforniaCrown.com. For additional information regarding our autumn meet, go to santanita.com. California Crown Day, Saturday, September 28th, will be an unforgettable day of world-class racing and world-class entertainment that you will not want to miss here at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita Park.
Sirius XM Sports presents At the Races with Steve Byk. Horse racing, handicapping, interviews. This is At the Races with Steve Byk.
We're back. It's about 20 to the top of the hour. Andy Serling will join us, and we'll do some review. And there's another Thursday carryover at the Big A. So we'll look at that. 53,000 maybe? Something like that, I think. Brian just reaching for Dr. All Day. Let me make sure he knows that you're calling. There we go. All right, I let him know, Brian. Different number. Yeah, because we got the Florida number, we got my number, we got Brian's number. Anyway, Andy will join us, and the carryover, while we wait for Dr. A, let's see, let's get a number on this, and it's 44,000. There we go, 44,000 on Thursday. Okay. Just call him back, Brian. I only sent you the mobile, so the cell. So because sometimes we used to call him in the office, and there's been many a Horse Health Today segment with with Dr. All Day's hands on a horse, right? Between the wind blowing and somebody holding a horse for him as we talk. Now that the topic that the bone bruising topic, when it comes up, it's one of those it's one of those sort of nebulous, right? Um, it's one of those sort of terms, you hear it and you think, well, all right, what does that mean exactly? And Dr. Steve Allday joins us, Horse Health Today, brought to you by Luberson and Reborn. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you this morning?
I'm good. It was kind of just funny that I reached out to you the other day about a friend's dog, and I said, it's been kind of quiet on the horse health topic front. And then no sooner do I say that yesterday one of the trainer guests brings up bone bruising, and we haven't talked about it in years.
No, we haven't. But it's kind of like the weather. It's
yeah, there's always a reason. There's always a good reason to bring it up. And sure. As I was waiting for you, I made the suggestion, Steve, that when we hear it, when it shows up in an article about a horse that's been turned out or needs time off, it doesn't really delineate, right? Very rarely does the reference get expanded. So I'd love for you to, give everybody a primer on what it is, how it happens, where it happens, the treatment and effective, return to the racing aspect.
Well, it's a great question, number one, because, for the longest time, it was a little, quote unquote, nebulous, in other words, we knew it occurred. We didn't realize probably the amount that it occurred, but we would start seeing something simple as, maybe a deficit in performance. Horses wouldn't finish like this, and then they put them back, after a few days off and, galloping, nothing critical here. Rider might say, hey, he's a little slow changing leads, he crossfired a little bit. You start seeing a few little clinical signs that don't really point to anything in particular, but they're not right, not the same horse. Then we start seeing when they gallop, as this goes on and progresses and we get them back into like a maintenance breeze, they tend to show a little bit of a, instead of a big delineation front to back, they kind of, and I use the term, but you remember the crazy cartoon, Pepe Le Pew, he kind of bounced around. Horses get a little bit of a Pepe Le Pew looking gait, meaning that they don't, have that good differentiation and they tend to be a little bit, the stride is shortened and they tend to bounce up and down. And the extension and flexion, the things that you normally see with a really good moving horse become a deficit and basically become a problem where they don't look normal anymore. We'll get a physical done on them. And on the physical, ironically enough, it's not really irony, but it is quite simply that they don't look, they don't show anything in particular. They don't jog that bad on a hard surface, but they look really, really bad on a racetrack. And then all of a sudden we start seeing a little effusion, maybe in some fetlocks, things like this, but not bad. And they don't flex horrible, but they flex like something bugs them. And then we'll even sometimes, radiograph and do interventions, or, like injections, to try to help out the comfort in the joint and this sort of thing. The fluid's really not that bad and this sort of thing. Well, the ultimate occurrence especially with the better quality horses, we send them off for a nuclear scan, bone scan, CAT scan, PET scans, things like this, because they're all available now. Just 1 second.
Sure. See, I told you he's always out looking at horses. He's got the
No, I just had one say, somebody just sent me a message. But anyway, so bottom line is that the first thing we used as a tool right away is we saw that the cannons lit up, quite a bit. The uptake was pretty significant. And we used to go a short period of time off and some of them would get better, look better and be fine and go forward. Others would need more time. And then some didn't get enough time and they come back and they, in a short order, maybe one breeze, they're back where they were. Well, what we found now is due to, the better diagnostic tools and as our ability to detect these has gone up, we now know that these are the start of microfractures, concussion, some damage to the cartilaginous and the subchondral bone, and meaning the surface, that's in the joint itself, and then the supportive structures behind it. And we're starting to see where these are the predecessors or the signs that the horse possibly could, have like condylers, or let's say what they call a palmar defect, or even a plantar defect, which would be on the hind limbs. And these things, can be progressive, and they can be in all four limbs simultaneously. And essentially, they're going to need a significant amount of time, at least 90, sometimes as much as 120 days, to let all this buildup of damage essentially before it becomes, the potential for a fracture and or catastrophic breakdown, that we give them the time for all this to come back together. And in a nutshell, you've gotten, I just went through a horse's career from when he started his 3-year-old year until about midway through the summer. And, and this is kind of the way some horses' careers progress. And, the more you keep going on them without, doing the workups or finding out what the problem is, the more likely they are to suffer from potentially, catastrophic breakdown, which, obviously is a sin if we have the ability to try to stop these things, ahead of time. Now, with expensive horses, you certainly want to spend the money because they're certainly worth it for their genetics and or, their ability to compete at high levels and generate revenue, because now the person. So bottom line is, in the lesser caliber horses, claimers, things like this, horses that wouldn't be the same caliber, wouldn't generate the same type of income, you don't have to spend all that money. Use common sense, and you realize that this is what the case is, and you give them the time off and allow them to heal. Give them at least 90 days, reevaluate, and then or 120, and then you're probably going to heal most problems as far as that goes. Now the bigger problem is people don't like biting the bullet, being that they've got so much time and money invested in their training to that point. But bottom line is, Steve, is that, it's the only way, you can, preserve these horses' ability to go out and do their job, which, what they're intended for.
Sure.
So, and we're at a juncture now with, Big Brother watching that, hey, they're not going to get past the vets anymore if they've got a predisposed or they got a previous condition or problem. If once they get on the radar and you don't get this taken care of, these horses basically would be banned or barred, from racing. And the word gets out because, they have a central database system, except in a couple of jurisdictions. And, they're not going to be allowed to run if you don't, if they're not drug free and they haven't been evaluated by, an examining vet and watched work. And they, hopefully can pass all the tests in order to get back in the starting gate. So, you potentially could have a horse that, has earned millions, and if you can't, jump through the hoops for the powers that be, then he's not going to be racing. It's really simple.
Steve, in terms of where this typically shows up, I mean, is this a cannon, a radius, a tibia? I mean, up high.
Typically, in the cannon bones. The cannon bones in the fetlocks. That's the more common. You do have a few exceptions, but they would be a bit of a rarity. It's not like a stress fracture like in a tibia would show as typically one limb. Meaning, I don't remember seeing any horses with a pair of tibias personally. It's usually one versus the other, and more commonly it seems like left than others. But I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a statistical analysis that determines. I've seen more left than rights, but maybe the stats say different. But going around a left-hand turn, that would make more sense.
Sure.
Because that limb has to basically be on that lead and take a lot more pressure leading in the turn, whereas the right doesn't get quite as much concussion. So,
boy, now you're tripping all kinds of got all kinds of thoughts.
It's complicated, Steve. This is not a simple deal. I mean, this requires routine evaluation, and then you've got to be, are these horses, I mean, this is a dynamic race horses are in a dynamic state of flux. They have to adjust to distances, they have to adjust to speed, they have to adjust to the surface, they have to be sometimes on something that's hard and dry, and good cushion. Sometimes they're sealed and they have to train over it. Sometimes they've gone through, like, they're deeper and looser. They don't have enough moisture in them. The horse has to adjust to a lot of different things on a regular basis. And, it's incumbent upon, the power, the people that train these horses and have them under their care to evaluate them routinely in order to determine, what's going on, and do we have potential for, injuries and or problems, because that is the bigger problem right now. A lot of horses get scratched, and, you're not going to get away with something that's marginal because they can't afford the risk, and I can't blame them. I mean, I've always erred on that side of caution that way myself.
Is there, because I know there's bone disease. Is there supplements and things that can aid, harden the bones? Is this something that calcium leaching or certain
Well, it's not like people with osteoporosis,
right?
Because,
that's sort of what I was
because
asking.
you got to remember now, the average horse at the track is, at the either immature 2, 3, 4, and then maturity is at 5 at the end of through the 5-year-old year, and then obviously at lesser tracks, but with a few exceptions at bigger tracks, older horses don't really make up the bulk of. I mean, most of the horses I look at are 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't really see many much older than that, except for a handful, literally. And the reason why is because that's where the money's made, and that's where the pedigrees are, perpetuated from. That's why you breed to certain horses. You want horses that develop quickly, have a lot of bone, hold up to the training, and show precociousness in performance early. So all of the above, is like, I haven't worked at a track of that nature in a really long time, so, and of course, now being that I'm, more or less semi-retired, I mean, I don't really get to much, I gave away or gave up most of my licenses, so I only have Kentucky, New York, and Florida, so, I'm only going to look mainly at younger horses, horses in their 2-year-old year, 3-year-old year, maybe 4, that sort of thing. And that's limited now because I just don't, like I said, I'm, Father Time's catching up with me. Like it does everybody.
Do horse bones remodel?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. Yeah. Sure. That's, you pick up, let's say you pick up early on, you'll notice that they have a nice round cannon from the lateral views on ready grass, and then when they get a lot of concussion, that thing gets a little bit pointy, meaning that the subchondral bone basically remodels according to the way the horse travels and the concussion they get and the surface they're training over and this sort of thing. And, you've got quite a variant. Now we have 3 surfaces that horses will race on. First off, dirt. Second would be poly, and turf obviously would be more prevalent, but poly is in a couple of tracks. And, horses are different. I mean, each one gets over differently. That's why, that there's the handicappers figure these things out, like yourself, that, hey, certain pedigrees do well on poly and or turf.
Sure.
And others do well on other types of surfaces. So, and the bigger problem we have is, like, they bring a lot of horses over from Europe here, and that's been a common day occurrence for, quite some time. And I have gone to the sales over there, and the one thing I stay away from, if you find horses have a lot of laxity in their pasterns and really drop quite a bit, the bigger problem you have is, unfortunately, even though they may be really effective in Europe, they wouldn't hold up here because they got to train on dirt. And you don't have that option unless you are at a specific facility, and there's only so much room at those places like Fair Hill, things like this, where. So I looked at horses and vetted them and said, listen, nice individual, too much laxity and too much length in the pastern. The big problem you got is, you'll break them down, training them on dirt, getting ready to try to be on the turf where they belong. Okay, and that's the problem. So I try to, and there are exceptions. There's horses that do okay anyway, But as a rule, that's probably a bad move to buy a horse like that you're going to be training on dirt, preparing on dirt, working on dirt, and then running on turf, because they won't hold up from the exercise of trying to get to break their maiden, essentially. And that's, that's a lot of money, because you're going to pay a lot of money for a good pedigree from Europe to come to the United States to run on turf, no matter what you do.
Is there heat in a bone bruise?
Sure. Yeah, we pick up on it. Yeah, and
okay.
They'll do thermo scans, and they'll see that they know that this is occurring, and but they can't. Like I said, that those things are just they're using signalement, no different than anything else. And in order to get the real down to the nitty gritty and get down to the meat of the matter, you need to go ahead and do the scans. You need to Duke scan, PET scan, CAT scan these things and see what's going on at the end of these cannon bones. And they'll see, that they'll see demonstrable changes, things that we never could have picked up on radiographs. That's a fact, because John Madison's practice in Ocala, they started using PET CAT scans like before anybody regularly that I was aware of, and they picked up on some stuff that was amazing to me, and it's good to see. Medicine is like everything; it's got to progress. That's how we stay ahead of the problems before they become bigger problems.
Exactly, preventative. And finally, in terms of diet and supplement and that kind, is there ways to either augment or speed healing?
Not really.
Supplements?
These things, if you've had a good balanced calcium phosphorus ratio diet when these things are developing, growing, both as when they first start creep feeding the mares when they're in foal, and then once these things basically are growing to their biggest growth period is obviously from yearlings, weanlings to yearlings to 2-year-olds. I mean, you see these things will achieve somewhere on the order by the end of the 2-year-old year, like 80 to 80+% of their mature size. You're not going to make bone like size of bone, the amount of bone better, but the density, you can certainly help dietarily. But past, into the 3 and 4-year-old year, that sort of thing, and when they get the concussion, it's not going to make that much different. You really need to, everything that's going into the bone has pretty much been done before, up through their 2 into the 3-year-old year, and then after that, it's just they put on mass. So the mass basically hopefully won't, overcome or be too much for the amount of bone that the horse has. And, this does happen. You get horses that are extremely precocious at 2. They're a little fine bone. They show speed because they have a large muscle mass. It gets heavier, more muscular. The bone doesn't change, and it doesn't get bigger or stronger. And you eventually end up chipping and having saucer fractures, things like this, because the amount of mass that this bone is carrying at high speed is not enough for the structure is not enough for the amount of the engine, so to speak. I would liken it to basically having a Ferrari engine and Volkswagen tires. You just don't have the things to hold up, unfortunately.
Right, the suspension system just doesn't.
It can't take the amount of speed it's got.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Well, as they say, the slow ones don't get hurt.
Well, that's true. The truer words were really never spoken, because when I look at horses and they're clean-legged and they're bred out to Wing Yang, and if they're not doing any good, I say, no, man, this horse obviously can't run fast enough to hurt himself.
Exactly.
So that's how it goes.
I love it. Dr. Stephen all day, everybody. Horse Health Today brought to you by Lubricant and Reborn. And Doc, this was great. Great to
always
have
a pleasure, Steve. Always a pleasure.
So appreciative. Yes. Doctor all day, folks. Talk soon. 19 years of consultation with one of the greatest, certainly of his generation, but one of the greatest racetrack practitioners of all time, and one of the greatest racetrack pundits of all time, Andy Serling. Is going to join us next. And actually, Brian, I can't remember last week. No, you weren't working last week. So, so you need right? Although you might, do you have it from OTB days? Maybe not. No. All right, here it comes. There you go. That is Andy. We're going to talk to Andy about the weekend, and there's lots actually. I got a full agenda for Andy Serling. Good morning.
You have a full agenda. I probably should hang up now.
Yeah, you might want to escape while the getting's good.
What's up?
Well, I want to do some recapping of the weekend. I want to look at the carryover, and I want to look ahead to the stakes card on Saturday.
It sounds like pretty exciting for you.
It is, and for the listeners, because we do it all for the listeners.
Okay.
I haven't given everybody the cross country essentially was the 4 races, the stakes, and of course that included the botched situation with the turf, but 4,800 almost for the cross country with that allowance at Aqueduct. But Andy, yeah, let's start with the 2 features and at Philadelphia, and thoughts about Torpedo Anna and Seize the Grays wins.
I don't know. I mean, Torpedo Anna didn't run particularly well. She still won. I mean, she got a perfect trip, and she ran her worst race of the year, and she still won and got a 93 buyer. And I guess the question that people have to ask themselves going to the Breeders' Cup is if they think it's just a sort of natural that horses don't always run their best races, and she's allowed one sort of semi-clunker relative to how she's run. And keep in mind, it's not like Gunstone's a bad horse, and she ran very well. And if you're saying she ran, I don't think that Spearman ran badly. She just ran worse than she normally does. And we've grown to expect such a high level of performance from her that this was a subpar effort. So given the strong campaign that she's had, I understand that there will be some people that'll say, well, it wasn't the race that we've grown to expect from her, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So I think that there will be some people, I'm sorry, I'm sort of losing my train of thought. It's fair to ask the question of whether or not you think this is indicative of what we're going to see from her going forward, or if she's going to bounce back and run her usual good race in the Breeders' Cup. She runs her good race in the Breeders' Cup. She's one of 3 likely winners, right, between Idiomatic and Adair Manor. I'm not sure she necessarily is a real favorite to beat Adair Manor if that one runs her best race, and especially with it being on her home court.
Right.
So this just raises some questions, I think, for people, right? It shows that there's a little bit of a crack in the veneer. Is that fair?
It is. It totally is. I mean, she's had a full aggressive campaign, which we all applaud, right? I mean, the Travers try.
It is what it is. It doesn't matter. We don't need to kiss up all the time. It is what it is. Whether you applaud it or you look at whatever. She's had the campaign she's had. I'm going to look at it from the standpoint of handicapping and not worry about everybody's feelings all the time. I mean, I thought that, I thought Kenny had an unnecessarily defensive response to a tweet from Acacia, where she just sort of asked the question of what people thought. And she's not me. She's actually nice all the time. And I thought it was a little bit jumping on. And I think people are allowed to have opinions, and our opinions aren't personal insults to horses or trainers, And I think I know that I'm not sick and tired of it. I was putting up for so long. The whiny owners that think because you don't pick their horses, you somehow don't like them or something. And it's like, I know the world revolves around all these people. So everything that happens must be somehow related to somebody's feelings about them. I've had owners complain to me and I say, I don't even know who you are and I don't know what horses you own. So, the fact remains that she didn't run her usual terrific race. She's so good, she's held to a higher standard. And I know the race she ran Saturday wouldn't have beaten Idiomatic or Adair Manor. So the question is whether or not you're confident she can run back to those really good races she's run earlier. I don't have a particular opinion on it either way right now. Is that fair?
No, it's perfect.
Not bound, but I don't mind. Why should I have an opinion right now? I'll worry about it in a month.
Yeah, but no, which is, yeah, I'm not asking, for.
Yeah, no, I know you're not. As far as Steve Byk, big day for my racehorse. Another race that was filled with pace where everybody decided to race. I'm guessing that the Juddmonte horse, part of trying to rate, considering they got right at the rail, was concerns that being wide was going to hurt them because it was I don't think it was the strongest inside bias I've ever seen, but there was clearly an edge to being inside at Parks, just going through the results. It's clearly, it wasn't a huge gold rail, but it certainly was advantageous. And I think they worried about being stuck outside the whole way. But as a result, the pace ended up being crawling, and we know that Steve Byk under, a biased racetrack with a moderate pace is capable of running well. So he had his day, his second day of the year. It's the second race that he's run a fast race. I know he won the Pat Day Mile, but that wasn't a race that's going to get him anything in any big races. And, congrats to Lucas, and he's got 2 big Grade 1 wins, though this race being a Grade 1 wasn't certainly complimented by this year's field. And he has no chance in the Breeders' Cup. But hopefully he shows the speed that he usually shows, unlike the race he ran the Jim Dandy, because at least then maybe he'll help ensure an honest pace, something we haven't seen in the last couple of big 3-year-old races.
Well, and it's going to be interesting to see what Lucas does, classic or mile wise too, because
well, he has no chance to either one, but they can run wherever they want.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not committing anytime soon to
Wayne passing the classic.
No, I know. Right.
That's very un-Wayne like to be.
Right. Exactly. We'll see. I just had before Dr. Allday. Actually, I had Jose D'Angelo on. We talked about that Ben Tornato.
Let's not talk about any other races from that day. I like Jose, but I'm not interested. I watched the races. I don't even know who these horses are, Steve.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry, but I don't.
That's
know
all right. Well, with the Vosburg coming Saturday, it's just kind of.
He'll be back in a week.
No, he's not going to be back in a week. But I'm just keeping an eye on the sprint division, essentially.
I think we know the sprint division is a mess.
Well, I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to be better than you.
I think it might be a fun race.
Yeah,
but I mean, sprint division and run. The mile, giving horses an alternative to running the mile has and will continue to hurt the sprint. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of horses that connections think they want more distance. I think trainers worry too much about less distance, but that's just what I think. But I mean, Milliken certainly has put himself in a position to be one of the top horses. I'm sure the Chosen Braun, even though he lost last time, got a lot of attention, the race being out in California. Who beat him last time? Oh, that horse of Doug O'Neill's, who's fast. The horse that ran the fast race on Derby Day, right? Yeah, he could be the favorite. I don't think I could be wrong, but I'm guessing the Breeders' Cup winner won't come out of the Vosburg. Having said that, there is one of the most entertaining horses of all time in the Vosburg, the 6-year-old gelding Comedy Town. Now, I do understand, and I don't necessarily disagree with some people that might say, well, this horse just improved because it was claimed by Saffie Joseph. But the first race this horse ran for Saffie was the same kind of, mediocre, crappy race he ran his whole career on synthetic. It wasn't until he went to the dirt that he blossomed. So you could say it had to do with Saffie, but it clearly had to do with the dirt. And it made me wonder, how many times do you think Mike Trombetta had him early, right? And then Mike Maselli ended up with him. I'd love to know how many times he scratched when races were rained off the turf.
Instead of taking a chance and running him on
had they run
track.
him on the dirt, had he been scratched, in all likelihood, he would have been a stakes winner much earlier in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible improvement. Listen, he was a pretty good horse at one time on the turf. Possible he was always better on the dirt, right?
Absolutely.
It is a pretty remarkable. I mean, his PPs are pretty remarkable.
And I just, here we go.
I have his last 12 running lines in front of me.
Me too. Yeah, as soon as he abandoned abandoned the poly and the turf, career bests.
Amazing what he's done.
He did run. I'm just looking at the buyer. He had 6
Well, he has
placements.
that sort of stick out 98 buyer off the claim for Mike
Right.
Kelly in a 5-furlong Laurel Dash. Having said that, remembering that race, he was more of a 90-ish buyer. Plenty of times ran less. He was okay. He wasn't. He was a second dancing buck in Saratoga. Looking at him, obviously, this is a horse that should have been in dirt his entire career. I wonder what his dam side. Let me look at this dam side. Oh, Jesus.
Unbridled humor, Mrs. Weber.
Do you find that when you leave formulator open for a long period of time, you can't get data from it?
Yes.
Reopen PP. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the dam is all turf. Graham Trainer. Now, the second dam was very good in the dirt. And the siblings, they ran okay in the dirt, like Wild Medaglia Doro. I remember this horse. This horse was, well, maybe a little better on turf, but not a lot better. There's one that only ran on turf and synthetic, named Super Watson. Another one, turf and synthetic. Only one other foal that really ran with any kind of regularity in the dirt. Amazing. Anyway, Spice Town. Incredible sires, Spice Town.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Incredible sires ever. They ran on dirt, they ran on turf, they ran on everything. Long, short, didn't matter. Anyway.
And Munnings is getting the same kind of results.
Yeah, that's fair.
Since we went in this direction, let's transfer into looking ahead to Saturday. Then we'll circle back to Thursday's carryover. But the rest of that Vosburg, it's kind of interesting. Baby Yoda, who actually, even though people think
you haven't looked at the race, so why don't I talk about it? Because Baby Yoda is your first horse you went to. You're not handicapping the race.
Well,
I think it's interesting that Scotland is back. He must have gotten sick after he won that race up there because he didn't work out for over a month after the race, but he's had 4 works. And he ran very well that day. And Dean Delivers is the controlling speed. He does have that one decent race in Saratoga where he finished third behind Elite Power and Gunite in the Vanderbilt last year. They look like the Nature 3.
Nacho Correas has got that third-time U.S.
Steve, if we're going to talk about the races, talking about horses that are the 5th and 6th choices, we can do it, but
what that effort, that 7th furlong effort,
wasn't been looking at this Vosburg? I'm just curious.
I looked at who's
Before
in it.
You started the call with me.
No, I when the PPs went up, I printed those.
Yeah, not just horse ran fast last time. He's unlikely to win here, but I'd be happy for Nacho.
Right. Well, then jump to the Woodward, and we should mention that K Army, the Chilean that they've been looking forward to seeing, is going to scratch out of here.
Oh, so you're already down to 4.
Yes.
Why is he scratching? Not good enough.
Bill Mott did not specify to Dave Grenning.
That's pathetic.
So it's Skippy, Longstocking, Krupe, Tapit Trice, and Mask Parade. Is
we talk about the 1988 Woodward instead?
They're gonna, yeah, they're gonna have to chase Skippy Longstocking.
Yep.
The Turf Classic, though, Andy, Turf Classic, I had Christophe yesterday, and I had Christophe on yesterday.
How'd that go?
Very well. I mean, I don't know if you saw the numbers I put up. Since he won.
I did see your sign up to Christophe. I thought it was really touching. No, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it coincided with a visit to the show.
It did.
That's really big. So, in other words, we had to be reminded that Christophe's a really good trainer. Sorry for him. Farbridge threw terribly in here. And, for a horse that really needs to be inside of his best running, he had his day in the Sword Dancer. I always liked that horse, and I like Christophe. So good luck to him in here.
Well, Christoph actually talked about the draw, and I don't think it's 100% certain that he's going to run.
Oh, good. Maybe we can scratch this one down to 4 too.
Well, Warlike got us back against the boys. Won this, of course, last year, and Silver Knot, etc.
When she won it last year, it was a bog. So while she's obviously a major player in here, she was really helped by the course condition last year. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be in that weather pattern this year. Silver Knot's got to bounce back from his last race. It certainly exposed him a bit. You know, he was a little dressed up off his prior race where he rode a very good rail in the controlling position. He was bad last time, but he's run well enough in the past that I don't have a problem with it. Anyone thinks he's, if not the horse to beat, one of the main horses to beat along with the filly and the mare. I think Emmanuel's a little interesting in here. Though he got just a unfortunate. I don't know what the plan was in the United Nations, but I don't know why he was as far back as he was at that distance. And I think he's a horse that could benefit by being more forward. So I thought if there's a fly anyway, but it's him. Well, I don't have a big knock on Warlike Goddess Silver Knot, and I like Barbridge. And they can find a way to get him over the inside, and Joel's good, then I think he has a chance to win. I don't think his last race was a completely aberrant effort. He ran well in other races, and he had no chance trip in the United Nations where he's wide the whole way around against a gold rail. So I don't think he's impossible to win from here. I just think drawing that post makes his life much more difficult. He drew an inside post, even though he wouldn't have been the speed in here, at least he could have been in his comfort zone. He's a quirky horse.
The fourth feature, the Grade 2 Pilgrim, where the 2-year-olds trying to win their way to Del Mar.
What do you think?
Well,
there's a huge favorite, right?
Zulu Kingdom.
Yeah. I mean, Zulu Kingdom is way the horse to beat, and I'm not looking to take a massive shot against him, but I would say he had a very, very, very good trip when he won last time out, which I think makes him a little bit vulnerable in here. I think he's much more likely to win than Concord Green, who probably is the second choice, who also got an extremely fortunate trip. He had a pace that was contested, but also saved ground the entire way before angling out late. Broke a little slow, and he overall had a superior trip on a strong rail when the rails were down. I thought the Noble Confessor, the maiden, was actually a little interesting in here trying the turf for the first time. Didn't think he was impossible. But he and Zulu Kingdom were the two likeliest winners.
Where's the pace coming from in here, Ed?
The rail.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's not in front. He fell down coming out of the gate. Or they made a horrible decision.
Yeah, because it is funny to look at a set of PPs like this and virtually not see, anybody in their.
Welcome to racing. Welcome to racing. 2024. I mean, one race after another. Noble Damsel we ran past weekend.
Yes.
It's. I don't know how we've got here, Steve, but here we are. And it's funny that nobody wants to have speed. Their horses, and the only thing that wins is speed. So I don't get it. Anyway, you want to let the carryover Thursday?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me reach for the. Let's see. There we go.
I mean, Beautiful Feet is the horse to beat in the first leg by a lot. Maybe some other places to go, but she's way the horse to beat. I thought Aunt Yola would run better. If you want a little bit of a price in there, you've got all these horses that don't want to win, like Literati and a quick power nap. These are just not winning types. And their lack of speed doesn't help them either. So I would think the four is the far is a big lean in the air, and people may want to find some other horses somewhere.
Well, hold on. You jump past the third.
Well, it's an 8-race card. Oh, right. Oh, sorry. Well, I prefer Dave Bright Delights. I thought ran really well last time. I preferred him over horses like Amplitude, New York Scrappy, and Patronage. I think I covered the ones you're going to take money, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot it was an 8-race card. The 5th race, well, I guess Sendero will be a pretty heavy favorite here, right? There will be some people betting on maybe giving Nikki Brain Trust another chance. I'm not. I bet her last time. I thought she was awful. Hang on a second. I mean, there's kind of an interesting horse in this race. I don't think you really looked at it, but there's a very interesting horse in this race, right? You there?
Yeah.
Is there not an interesting horse in this race? Or have you not looked?
The D'Angelo.
The interesting horse in the race. The interesting horse in the race is the 4.
Yeah, the D'Angelo.
I mean, this horse was 32-1. A New York bred debuted at Delaware at 32-1 and was essentially eased. Switches to Jose D'Angelo, and Irad Ortiz decided not to ride. That's a little interesting to me, and so I think that's sort of a wise guy. I don't know. It's a weird thing as a fast work in Monmouth. This seems to be the wise guy horse of the week. So certainly be at my tickets. Not like Sindera and Nikki Brain Trust do a whole lot for me. I don't. I mean, this is a pretty hungry crew, huh?
Yeah, I get. Yeah, it's one of those.
Waiting Haas to wake up on the outside. His horses have been very live.
Digital currency, and then you got a firster in here.
Yeah, probably not much worse. Anyway.
Well, gets us to the stake, the Hettinger, the late John Hettinger.
Yeah. Well, it's 1.8 miles, right? And that's a little bit of a question mark. And Silver Skillet obviously just got one of the most puzzlingly bad rides I've seen all year last time out. But is she really a 1.8 mile horse, right? Whereas a horse like Marvelous Maud and What Love Looks Like are more 1.8 mile type horses. The problem is they're not that good. And I know that Marvelous Maud finally sort of showed some life again after she seemed to have just completely fallen off last time. I'm just not sure how much I like that race overall. And so I decided to go in a different direction and pick Can't Fool Me, who may not be good enough, but I thought she really improved last time out. And who knows, maybe she's just getting better. And I kind of wanted a new face, the ones I'm kind of sick of looking at. So I took her over Silver Skillet, Marvelous Maud, and What Love Looks Like. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Exactly.
And the 7th is a bit of a war. I think you would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the horse to beat is late in 7 is getting back to a 1-turn mile. I'm not going to hold the Met against him. It was on Belmont Stakes Day when horses really weren't picking up ground. And I think he's really better at a mile. We've seen that Full Streams run well since that race they ran together. So I thought he was sort of logical. Unbridled Bomber is kind of a bomb that might have a shot in this race. Untreated showed a little life last time, though I'm not confident he's ever capable of winning again. But He did show life last time, so I'd probably throw him in. I don't like Rocket Can. He couldn't win last time. He beat me here. And we can wrap it up in the 8th with, I picked Be There. I thought Be There ran a winning race last time. It's an odd race because Egyptian Quest, who was third, came back and was horrible last week, but the winner ran a 72, ran an 80 and a 92 in his next start. And other horses have improved out of the race last time. Now, this is an interesting horse because he looks like a big career loser, but is he really a loser going short in the turf? So his races going short in the turf make him better than this field. And I thought he ran very well last time. I'm not sure I'm supposed to really love him here. You know, I thought he certainly ran better than Sassy Alley did, the filly against the boys. Betagogo is obviously the one turf race was okay behind Typhoon Fury, but this was a little bit better. And got a firster for Clement as well as Reverend Moon, but I'm not a big Reverend Moon fan, but he was running against a much better field last time. I don't know where else I was supposed to go, unless you think that Linda Rice horse is suddenly going to run a lot better, which I suppose is possible.
That's the 8, Liberté de Bayou.
Yeah, but that seems like a hard race to close it out. It's not; these sequences are not easy. And I can't speak for everybody else, but I was lost last week. I mean, overall, there were a lot of horses were winning, especially turf routes that I thought were very hard to make, and I found the results to be very difficult.
Well, I'll tell you what amazed me. How about Saturday, Andy, that after 2 big priced horses, that there was that horse to take the pool down, and he promptly.
I assume somebody hit it on a $2 or $4 ticket, throwing the numbers or something. I mean, I don't. Right? I mean, it's always possible it was part of a very small play. I mean, a very big play, and it was a small ticket on that, but I don't buy that. I mean, that ticket, which you may not realize, though I tweeted out, is that the person who had the winning ticket was also going to take down the entire console pool with 9 of the other 11 horses. So it doesn't really make sense to me that it was part of a bigger play. I think it may have been a quick pick numbers play. I haven't asked him to look into it, but I will. But it just doesn't make any sense. You know, I mean, the pick 5 paid 5 times as much per dollar. Pick 5. It was a 20% of the parlay. It was just ridiculous. There's a sophisticated pick 6 players that put real money in are going to shy away from betting combinations where the odds are significantly higher than the amount of money in the pool. And it's not because it's mathematically unsound. Yes, but the side note is there are better ways to make money in the pools by combining those horses than to put it in the pick 6. So it's a horrible way to spend your money. So I don't think there was any sophistication. It was probably just could have been somebody's license plate number for all I know. You know what I mean? It just or a quick pick. It just doesn't make sense.
I was amazed when they when they put up the.
Yes, we were all amazed.
Like, wow.
But you have to understand something. If that ticket hadn't been bought, there would have been 3 horses live for 5, and nine of them alive for 4. Nobody had 5 besides the winning ticket on 9 of the other horses. So it was a very aberrant situation. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen once in a blue moon,
sure,
but it seemed to happen here. I would have been curious to see if it would have been hit on Sunday. It was not an easy situation with that Bruce Brown horse winning, you know?
Well, I said to, was it to Dave? It was to Nick Tamaro. That first week of cards and the on a daily basis. They've been good. They've been deep.
They have been very good cars. I've just found it. I mean, it's a funny thing because if you looked at my ROI, it's fine, because I've had some winners on top of logical type courses, but I've been completely lost in a lot of races. A lot of surprising winners. I mean, I guess the Serpy horse that won the last race on Sunday was my fifth choice, but it was a stretch to make the fifth choice. The only reason it was there because the horse was against the track in that turf race, in the 6 furlong race. But I don't know. That was not an easy horse to have. It didn't figure to be the speed over the 9, but the 10. But they sort of allowed. There've been a lot of difficult results. At least in my opinion, there have been. And there have been some obvious ones too, but I haven't. I mean, I did. Since I hit that pick 5, I've been terrible. My gambling's been awful. It happens. It's racing. But the racing's been fine as long as the weather's good. The racing in the fall is good in New York.
Well, looking forward. I'm coming down Thursday night, and
what's going on this weekend?
We're running on Friday.
Well, running is an operative word. I bet that horse last time. I would definitely not call what that horse did run.
He's moving to the grass, which probably is what he's wanted, and looking forward to
it. To eat it or run on it?
He's a Motown.
Exactly a huge turf pedigree.
It's
his last race was so disappointing because he actually had run a little bit in the second start.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
it was atrocious in an atrocious field last time, unfortunately. Well, good luck. You gonna come visit?
Yeah,
what race is he in?
The 4th. The 4th. I'll do the show. I'll do the show from Aqueduct.
Does Donnie know? Maybe that's why he was in so much last week, getting ready for you to come down.
No, actually, he doesn't. I got to make.
You don't want to give him a little warning?
I will. Although, the lines, I don't even need those anymore. I can Wi-Fi it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you going to do the show from?
I thought the press box. Yeah.
Wow. Have you there?
I know.
Did I warn him?
Well, I was texting with him last night. He was watching his beloved Washington football team, and he was.
Does McKenna know you're coming?
Not yet. No.
Have you considered telling him?
I'll tell him. Yeah. I don't want to give him a lot of advance warning because he gets excited and.
I may tell him they'll not allow you to come. A week in advance.
I can do it. I can do it from the parking lot.
You can do it from Resorts World.
Yeah, or live from Conduit Avenue.
Well, hopefully I'll see you. I'm on from I'm on until 3:30, but I'm off for a little while after that if you're around.
All right. Well, I there's a real chance. I think Tina's going to Rochester, so I think I might hang around Friday night and come for the stakes Saturday.
Wow. Whew. That should increase attendance.
Such an asshole.
You like an autograph signing? All right, I'm going to go. Who's your next victim?
Doug Cowens.
Okay. Wish him my best.
I will.
See you later.
Andy Serling, everybody. I won't tell Doug that Andy's pushing for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Yeah. Doug is going to join us next, and yes, and all of you can. I'll ask him for you because, as you know, I'm not one that tries to direct connections in any particular direction, right? It's their horse, it's their property. They they can choose to run where they want, but it's a great story, and yeah, I was aware of that, and now you do. All right, beautiful. I'm just reaching for there it is. All right. I was actually, I was of a mind that there was potential for Doug to hit the 8th, 9th double between next. And then he was sending out Injunction, and Injunction got bet appropriately, ended up as second choice behind Coastal Mission. And I don't want to say, I'm not going to say that Coastal Mission, was a, no, because he was 5-2. He didn't seem like 5-2 to me when I handicapped. I'll tell you that. Coastal Mission. But he did take the money and ended up at 3-2. And you know who? It's funny. Mikey Arrow. Mike Arrow, before this race, said that he wanted to bet between the dirt mile. He wanted to bet Repo Rocks, and I thought Injunction was the right play. And I think we've got Doug Cowens now. Doug, good morning.
How are you, Steve?
I'm good. I was explaining that I was looking for the Doug Cowens double between the 8th and the 9th race. Injunction had a good look in there. Ran okay.
Yeah, I was looking for that same double, Steve. It just didn't work out.
Well, listen, when you've got the best, you got the best endurance horse, the best distance horse in the country. Sometimes you just say, all right, that we're doing fine with him. No, that's a nice horse, Injunction. And this was, I was talking about it yesterday. Those high price claims, invariably they work out pretty good.
Those are the kind of claims I'm looking for. Just to get us to the spots that we've found for these guys. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. This one seems to have worked out as well.
He's a 6-year-old, and so he's got. Actually, he's only made 23 starts, so feels. You got a better feel for him. Obviously, you've been looking at him, since May, and he hasn't run a bad race. And he's got a win, a second, and a third, and 3 stakes for you.
Yeah, he's gotten a little unlucky too. At Ellis, he got caught a little wide and hooked a tough horse in Saudi Crown. And then the other day, he really likes the 1-turn mile the best. The 2-turn mile seems to be a little bit harder on him. And, he drew an inside post on a deep track at this weekend and got pressured the whole race. He never got a breather at all. And I think that kind of cost him at the end there just a little bit.
We'll talk about it as part of the discussion with Next, who's also a 6-year-old. I had Wayne Lucas yesterday, and Wayne said that when he walked out onto the track apron, because they had to take the picture out on the dirt, he said he couldn't believe, he didn't realize how deep that track was until he went out there. And now you're the second person to mention how deep and tiring the park's main track was Saturday.
Yeah, I walked over with the first horse that ran, and I was like, boy, I don't think they can get enough water on this track as deep and cuppy as it was. But, I was a little shocked at how deep it was as well. Seemed like it was a little more deeper on the rail as well. I don't know if that's because the track's crowned there or what, but seemed to be a little bit deeper down inside.
Well, nothing stops Next. Let's shift gears and talk about his defense of the Greenwood Cup, and has now won 7 straight.
7 straight, yes, sir. So he got the. I was after I walked over with him, I was happy that he had an outside post where he could kind of let them do whatever they wanted inside there, and just kind of stalk the pace and do his thing when he was ready to go. And we've learned too, the horse doesn't need to bring the track to himself. He takes it whatever he's got. He don't mind if it's
Machado gets along with him so well, Doug, and you can just you can see that he's relaxed, but that he also is engaged, right? He's not necessarily a horse that just switches off. You can see that he could really take the lead anytime.
One of the keys to the horse is to get him to get off the bridle just a little bit, and it takes just a minute with the horse. And he'll get the tugging just a little bit on Machado, but once he gets off the bridle, then he's in that rhythm that he gets into, and he just kind of waits for his cue at that point.
As you watch him, I mean, at this point, you know how he's traveling. Last year in this race, he won by 25 lengths. It was interesting to see a couple of different horses take runs at him and sort of, get up to him. And then, Machado lets it out a notch and those horses kind of fall away. He just gallops everybody into the ground.
Well, he's unique in the way that he can run them off their feet early and late.
Right.
Not many horses can do that. And that's what makes him so deadly. And, if a couple horses want to go to the lead, he'll let them go and kind of put a little pressure to keep them going. And if nobody wants the lead, he can take the lead and then slow everything down. So he's super dangerous, and that's why he's a good marathon horse.
Well, marathon is a key differentiation, I guess, as part of this conversation, because you knew when I reached out to you that at some point the question's going to come. I mean, people, as he's piling up these wins, Doug, they're more and more eager to see him, face off against the handicap division.
Yeah, that's not so easy though for the horse, just because to do that he's going to have to give up either surface or distance. You're going to have to switch him over to the grass to keep the distance, or we're going to have to shorten him down to stay on the dirt. And I don't know that either one of those is a good thing for the horse. So, we just have to see where this takes us. We get the horse home here and get him back into his routine and get him up to a breeze, and then have some conversations.
And obviously, Michael Foster, who also owns Injunction, I mean, enjoying this ride with this horse. And I say all the time, I'm not somebody that is going to tell anyone what to do with their horse. But he's won so many fans. We've talked about it a couple of times, and it's the natural curiosity, Doug, for people to say, let's see him face the classic handicap types next. So it'll be well received if and when you do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought maybe you on this radio show could reach out and get us a race written on Breeders' Cup Day. Get the Thoroughbred Caroline brought back, and then we'd know exactly where we were going.
Well, and I was disappointed about that too. I mean that because I think earlier in the year we assumed that it was going to be there.
That was the end goal, and kind of always assumed that it would be there, but for whatever reason they don't want to have it.
Well, meanwhile, you're picking the spots absolutely, brilliantly, and he the calendar sort of writes itself for him.
Yeah, the calendar does write itself for him, and if we opt that we don't want to go out to the Breeders' Cup, then we'll put him away right now, and we'll have him ready to go in March, and he'll make the Temperance Hill for the first time if that's the way we decide to go. And then he'll kick back into these same 4 races that he had done this year and last year.
Nice. And from what you can see and from what we're all seeing, this has taken nothing out of him.
It appears that it doesn't take much out of the horse. The trips do take a little bit out of him. He tries to run. He made 2 back-to-back trips to New York, and when he got back on the second trip, he was a little you know, he wasn't, I don't want to say he was down, but took him a minute to kind of bounce back. And, you know, it didn't take a real long time. Shortly, second breed or so, he was right back where he normally is and ready to go for parks. So it does take a little bit, the shipping does, out of him.
Well, the amazing thing that we've said, you know, as these stories have materialized, two sons of Not This Time, Cogburn and Next, they both switch surfaces and they both take off. Cogburn as the best turf sprinter maybe that America's ever produced, and Next, who's clearly as good a stayer as we've seen in ages. It's an amazing thing that you know, the versatility of his progeny, obviously, to produce these two horses.
Oh, I think that we're gonna look back in time here and realize that he might be one of the greatest sires we'll ever see. And you know, a lot of that probably comes from the Giant Causeway line there.
Sure.
Getting the turf and the long distance, and you know, and this horse can sprint too, the other horse. So Cogburn's amazing sprinter on the grass. So get any kind of horse out of Not This Time.
And of course, you know, Dale Romans, he said this all along. The horse, he hadn't covered a single mare, and Dale said he's going to be one of the greatest sires ever. And it looks like Dale, you know, might have been right about it this time.
Looks like he was right on with that one.
I love it, right? I got the greatest story to tell you, actually. There's a few other horses we should talk about too, but I was at Kentucky Downs with Patrick Lewis, and Patrick had a friend, Doug Arnold Jr., Buck Pond, and when your name came up and we were talking about, you know, we're talking about Next, and I think you were running, maybe might have been the day of Barberini or Pack a Lunch. It was that weekend, and your horsemanship was just being lauded, Doug, because Doug, the story that Doug Arnold told was that at some point his dad said, you know, this guy Cowens, he keeps coming to the sale and he buys our best horse like every year, and not necessarily the most expensive horse, but the horse that Buck Pond felt was, you know, the nicest horse they bred that year. And so after a while, he said, why don't we start sending this guy horses?
Yeah, I've recently picked up a few horses for Doug and them from buying a horse here and there off of them at the sales, and been lucky enough to pick some homebreds that they've bred and done well with them.
Well, I thought it was a great story because, you know, you for somebody that, you know, has been training for a good long while, and you know, you became something of a household name this year because of this horse, and that was the same kind of revelation that, you know, that the Arnolds had, is, you know, this guy's obviously pretty sharp. We should start sending him horses. I got the biggest kick out of it.
Well, hopefully we can come up with a next for him out of there.
I love it. I love it. What? Give us a couple. Actually, I want to talk to you about a couple of horses too, because you've had some recent maiden breakers, and there was the horse actually out of the Ellis Derby that I don't think we even talked about the last time we talked in Junction. Not This Boy.
Yeah, Not This Boy's a nice 3-year-old, and you know, the Ellis Park Derby kind of zapped him a little bit, so we've been easy with him and getting him back on a breed schedule and getting him back where he was and getting him sharp again. And I'm not sure where this will take us at the moment because a lot of the 3-year-old stakes are over right now. So you might see him show up in a 2X there at Keeneland or Churchill here at the end of the year.
He's obviously with that name. That's another not this time.
Yeah, this is another not this time that looks like he's going to be a dirt route or two at the end of the day here. And I think time is on his side. As you know, I think the older he gets, the better he's probably going to get. And I kind of knew that as a 2-year-old as well. That's why I'd only ran him one time and kind of put him away, and then brought him back. He's had a great 3-year-old season so far, and I think that the horse will even keep on maturing and get a little bit better the older he gets.
Well, he got beat by a nice Brad Cox, Gary West homebred, and this is a horse that. Tell me about the client, actually, Zimmer Ridge.
Yeah, the horse is owned by the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, Mike Zimmer, and he came to me to train the horse. He had it in Minnesota when he was up there as the head coach,
Sure.
and he lives here in northern Kentucky and reached out to me, and he lives fairly close to me and wanted to be close to the horse, so we made a good connection there, and we've hit it off since I've had the horse for him.
Well, and how long? We've met Mike a few times, and saw him last, not this year, but the year before at Oaklawn. He'll show up at Oaklawn during the winter. After whatever team gets is knocked out, but so he'll have plenty of time this year. The oh, hey now the cowboy hater in me, just you can't stop that stuff, Doug. Sorry, but when did he start using the Zimmer Ridge name? I've not seen that.
Well, here in northern Kentucky, he's got a farm out there, and that's the name of the farm. So
interesting.
He's kind of rolled along with the farm name there.
Interesting, because I mean, I've seen. I mean, he's had horses off and on for years. But I didn't think it was under that name. They're very cool. All right, so here's a horse to keep track of, not this boy. Very nice. Well, this is why we have these conversations. How many more maidens? How many more babies do you have to run?
We got several 2-year-olds that are kind of creeping up on races here that haven't gotten started this year, and so hopefully we'll get a few started here at Keeneland and maybe a few more there at Churchill before they end, and hopefully something will show up here and look like it has something.
Well, you've only got a couple. There's one. You got one running at Belterra on Thursday, and one at Thistledown on Friday. So there's really nothing unless you got something that you're hiding for the weekend that you're going to enter.
No, those are our only 2 runners this week. It's been kind of light. So hopefully we'll have a big week next week.
All right. Well, you did break a maiden with long shorts on Thursday.
Yeah, long shorts is a 2-year-old that was kind of precocious and once, and he had a real rough trip, come out and come back and won. So, we're excited to see where he goes. He was very game in his second race there and kind of fended off a couple rivals throughout the race and dug down deep to win. So we're kind of excited about him.
It's a street boss for PTK. Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Doug, obviously nice weekend, and next defends his Greenwood title, and we'll probably go for a third next year. And no matter what happens, whatever decision you make about the coming up November, continued success.
Well, thank you, Steve, and I appreciate you having me on.
No, this is a horse that has won a lot of fans, and he's going to be around. That's the best part. That nobody has to worry that that he's going to be rushed off somewhere. He's going to come back, and as long as I imagine, as long as you can keep him healthy and happy, we'll have next in in these spots for a couple more seasons.
Well, that's kind of the plan, and that's kind of the way we've mapped everything out. And at this point in time, the horse is just try to keep him healthy and sound, and let him tell us when he's ready to run. And I think as long as we do those type of things, we'll be able to see him stick around for a while.
Well, now up to 13 wins and 23 starts, and approaching $1.5 million in earnings. Next, Doug Cowards. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll talk soon. Doug Cowards, folks. And next, and keep an eye on Injunction coming out of the dirt mile. Get him back to one-turn opportunities. So you got, there's a hint. There was a hint of a chance, right? That we could see him at Cup, right? Thanks to Doug Cowards. Earlier, of course, Dr. Allday, and visit with Eric. If you missed that, try to catch up either tomorrow on the replay or archive podcast in a little bit, right? Thanks to Jose D'Angelo as well, right? Talk to Jose before the break. Replay and archive, and 6 to 9 replay tomorrow. Going to work on that pick six carryover for Thursday. Wednesday get together. Sid and Dick Powell, Seth Merrow, of course, and Peter Rotundo Jr. is going to join us because he's getting excited and looking forward to the California Crown. He says there's some new betting innovations they're going to drop, so we'll check in with Pete tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you in the morning.
Oh, there goes a Buick 49, like sheep of the angels riding down the line. We think there is a soul, we don't know. That soul is hard to getting the heartbeat when you don't go killing all the bees. It's what the people are saying. It's what the people are saying. There ain't no berries on the tree. It's what the people are saying. The berries on the tree. Good chicken out the honey, baby. You have to go killing all the bees. Hey-o! Second one time,
Breaking down the biggest stories in the world of horse racing. This is At the Races with Steve Byk on Sirius XM Radio. On Sirius XM Radio.
More winning is ready for you in September at Remington Park. Racing begins at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. Make your plans now for Oklahoma Derby Day. Sunday, September 29th features the Oklahoma Derby, the Hat and Tie Style Contest for big cash prizes, and the Derby Day Wine Tasting Festival. Oklahoma Derby Day. Visit RemingtonPark.com for group rates, suite rentals, and more. Get more. We're the Jacksons. Parking.
Shield, deleting all EIPH. The list of trainers who trust Bleeder Shield is endless. Shouldn't you join the team? To learn more, contact Joseph Vellante at 215-501-6880.
Who you betting at? We fist pumping and boosting your bankroll with robust weekly promotions and offer betting tips from actual horse racing experts. Bet all day and night nationwide. Match with promo SteveBets.com for details.
Want to know a secret? The Massachusetts breeding program pays huge bonuses for finishing first, second, or third at any racetrack in the country. You didn't know that, did you? Massbreds get paid. Owner, and breeder, and stallion owner, and developer. It's the best kept secret in racing. Till now. Tell all your friends. And to learn more, visit massbreds.com.
Whether you're new to the racing game or just looking to enhance your operation, we are conveniently located between Churchill Downs and Keeneland Racecourse and near world-renowned equine hospital. Expert staff and qualified veterinarians, we offer operative care and layups. Visit us in person or online at hermitagefarm.com.
Just minutes from downtown Saratoga Springs, you'll find GMP Farm, a revolutionary state-of-the-art equine therapy and rehabilitation facility offering the most advanced equipment and knowledgeable staff to care for your equine athlete. From oxygen therapy and laser treatments to thermal imaging, dry salt room, and cryotherapy treatment, all alongside a 7/8-mile tapeted training track. GMP Farm is revolutionizing equine care. To see a full list of services and book your horse's rejuvenation session, visit gmpfarm.net today.
Fans, our live meet here at Santa Anita Park will return on Friday, September 27th. And the first ever California Crown Day at Santa Anita will be held on Saturday, September 28th. It is a day that will include the $1 million California Crown Stakes, along with two Grade 2 stakes worth $750,000 each. It will also include premium compound experiences with incredible food and beverage options, along with world-class live musical performances.
Sirius XM Sports presents At the Races. Sirius XM Sports presents
from the gate, especially from January 8th to
Angelo, everybody, and this feels since Spain, Lucas. I can't remember now, but I thought, you know what? We haven't talked about that probably since Smarty or Fleet Alex, I think, had some bone bruising. Right? Anyway, that's our topic. Horse Health Today, brought to you by Lubricant and Reborn. Andy Serling at the top of the hour. Second half at the races. Sirius XM.
Sirius Sports present At the Races with Steve Byk. Horse racing, handicapping, interviews. This
I would like to say thank you to
the 20 to the top of the hour. Andy Serling, Derek.
Heartburns.
Such an asshole.
You want an autograph signing? All right, I'm going to go. Who's your next victim?
Doug Cowens.
Okay, wish you my best.
I will.
See you later.
Andy Serling, everybody. I won't tell Doug that Andy's pushing for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Yeah, Doug is going to join us next, and I will ask him. Yes, and all of you can. I'll ask him for you because, as you know, I'm not one that tries to direct connections in any particular direction. Right? It's their horse. It's their property. They can choose to run where they want. But it's a great story. Yeah, I was aware of that. And now you do. All right. Beautiful. I'm just reaching for there it is. All right. I was actually, I was of a mind that there was potential for Doug to hit the 8th, 9th double between next. And then he was sending out Injunction, and Injunction got bet appropriately, ended up as second choice behind Coastal Mission. And I don't want to say, I'm not going to say that Coastal Mission, was a